na may munting piling, ibig nais niyang iparinig. Pag-aaral mo sa walang pangalan, ang karunungan ay siyang mas mahalaga. Nang ibang hinahanap, nanahin mong katulad sa isang napisilip may araw na sisikat din. Aking liliparin, aking papabilin, ang bagong pag-asa ay muling tatanawin. Ako't gawin lahat, ito'y ating makakamtan. Puspos ang pagsisikap, matutupad ang pangarap. Nalalang kahit pulos may tumarang, sipag at lakas ang ating hawak. Labis ng aking paglaban, patunay na inaaral. Pangalan ko ay siyang matutupad, matutupad.
Halina't makinig sa akin, tamang kabalaran ang kahihinatnan natin. Bubukal sa iyong isipan, tagumpay na tatahakin. Isang pangarap na lubos, landas na iyong pagtutunguhan. Pangat na inaasam, di mapipigil ni numan. Maaabot lahat, lahat ng iyong inaasam. Kasipagan ng sagot, salat ka man sa kayamanan. Buksan ang pahina ng mga aklat ng karunungan. Edukasyon ating kailangan, kamamangan ating iwanan. Peace!
Aking liliparin, aking papabilin,
Ating tanawin,
bagong pag-asa ay muling tatanawin.
kinabukasan pagbibayin. Pilitin mong gawin,
Puspos ang pagsisikap,
pag-asa ay yakapin. Edukasyon ang kayamanan ng kahit ninuman. Isang pangarap ang tutupad, pagsisikapan ng lahat.
puspos ang pagsisikap,
Kaya mo yun, kaibigan.
mabubuo isang pangarap.
Magandang araw Pilipinas, magandang araw Luzon, Visayas at Mindanao. Narito po tayong muli sa panibagong edisyon ng EduAKSYON, Aksyon at Solusyon para sa Edukasyon, the DepEd Virtual Press Conference. Binabati ko po ang lahat ng mga mag-aaral, ang lahat po ng mga magulang at syempre ang ating kaguruan na nakasubaybay sa atin live via DepEd Philippines Facebook page. Good morning po sa inyong lahat at syempre, kamusta naman ang ating first day ng limited face-to-face classes? I hope nag-enjoy po kayo sa unang araw ng pagbabalik natin sa ating mga eskwelahan. Nire-recognize din po natin lahat ng mga makakasama nating media partners, mga kaibigan mula sa media at press na makikilahok sa conference na ito. Ngayon pong umaga ay naka-broadcast din tayo at mapapanood tayo ng live sa mga social media accounts at local channels ng ating iba't ibang media partners sa iba't ibang panig ng bansa. Kasama na po yan, andyan ang CLTV 36 ng Region 3, DWRB 103.9 News FM Radio Bulacan, Romblon Cable ng Mimaropa Region, andyan din po ang Kabangkalan Community Antenna TV sa Kabangkalan City ng Region 6, Siargao TV, Caraga Region, the post at ang Rappler. Ngayon po ay aalamin natin ang mga latest updates ukol sa opisyal na pagsisimula ng ating pilot implementation on face-to-face classes na naganap kahapon. Makakasama at makakapanayam natin ang iilang
Recording
opisyal
in progress.
ng DepEd na nakatutok at patuloy pa rin nakamonitor sa ating pagbabalik eskwela. Kaya let me acknowledge the presence of our dear guest for today. Simulan po natin, Secretary Leonor Magtoles Briones. Kasama rin po sina Assistant Secretary Malcolm Garma at sina Director Lopez Santos at Director Ronilda Co. Siyempre, from our field offices, andito din po ang ating mga regional directors na magbibigay ng mga updates mula po sa Calabarzon, Region 7 and Region 10. Represented po ang ating Luzon, Visayas at Mindanao. Kasama natin sina RD Francis Bringas, andito din po si RD Sal Jimenez at RD Arturo Bayucot. Ayan, November 15 na po, kahapon lang ay opisyal na nagbukas ang iilang paaralan sa bansa bilang pagsisimula ng ating pilot limited face-to-face classes. Kahapon din po ay ang iilan sa ating mga opisyal sa DepEd ay pumunta sa mga field offices at sa mga schools para mag-inspeksyon at maisiguro ang kaligtasan ng bawat isa sa unang araw po ng ating pagbabalik eskwela. Marami man pong pagsubok na kinakaharap ang kagawaran ay ipinakita naman ng sektor ng edukasyon na ang pagkakaisa sa buong bansa mabibigay pa rin natin ang dekalidad, napapanahon at inklusibong edukasyon sa anumang sitwasyon. At ngayon, upang bigyan tayo ng kauna-unahang update, ito naman ay patungkol sa mga pinakahuling ulat sa status ng pagbabakuna ng mga napiling paaralan na lumahok sa ating face-to-face classes. May I call on DepEd, Bureau of Learner Support Services Director, Director Lope Santos III.
Director Sanglay, nagagalak po kaming ibahagi sa inyo ang status ng vaccination sa Department of Education sa field offices at kasama na rin yung dun sa ating first 100 schools na nagkaroon ng face-to-face classes simula kahapon. Ibabahagi po namin yung aming PowerPoint na ipipresent po sa atin ng Public Affairs Services or ng School Health Division para mas maipakita namin ang kalagayan ng vaccination sa Department of Education. Can you share the PowerPoint? Sa kasalukuyan po ang vaccination rate sa Department of Education nationwide ay nasa 67% na po ng lahat ng personnel ng Department of Education ang nabakunahan simula as of October 19 na huli kaming nakakuha ng data. Every 15th of the month po ay nag-update kami. So with that rate, we expect that by November 15, inaasahan natin na ang vaccination rate sa Department of Education ay aabuti na po ng more than 80%. At with the planned national vaccination up to on November 29 to December 1, ina-expect po natin na halos lahat ng gustong magpabakuna sa DepEd ay matatapos ng bakunahan at open na rin sa ating mga learners. Doon naman po sa 100 schools ay more than 80% na po ng ating DepEd personnel ang nabakunahan at yung iba ay nakarehistro na at naghihintay na lang ng schedule nila ng bakuna at maliit na porsyento na lamang, halos 6% na lamang nung DepEd personnel, both teaching and non-teaching personnel, yung hindi po nababakunahan sapagkat merong mga kadahilanan. Yung iba ay may comorbidity, yung iba ay buntis, hindi pa pwedeng bakunahan, yung iba ay dahil sa advice ng kanilang mga doktor na huwag munang magpabakuna, at yung iba naman ay pinili na huwag magpabakuna, maliit na porsyento po dahil sa kanilang mga personal na kadahilanan. So yan po yung kalagayan ng vaccination sa Department of Education at dun sa face-to-face classes na simulan natin kahapon dun sa 100 schools. Medyo nahuli po yung ating screen sharing, but I think I already mentioned the okay. Ito na.
Ayan, go ahead, Director. Director Lope, parang nasa labas po kayo. Nasaan po kayo ngayon?
Yes, nasa Nueva Ecija ko ngayon at 40 days ng mother ko kaya uwi muna ako, but kahit na nandito tayo sa lalawigan ay naabot naman tayo ng Zoom. So ayan po yung ko natin out of more than 932,000 na personnel ng DepEd sa buong Pilipinas ay 67% na o 627,000 na po yung nabakunahan, at yung meron pang nakarehistro na 215,000 na naghihintay na lang ng schedule ng vaccination. Again, kagaya nung inulit ko kanina, nabanggit ko kanina, ito ho ay as of October 19. But we are generating another updates as of November 15. So ina-expect po namin na itong 215,000 na ito na nag-registered na ay malamang marami dito ang nabakunahan na rin. So mas malamang ay umangat na po tayo ng mas mataas na porsyento ng nabakunahan sa Department of Education. Next slide please. Ayan po yung vaccination trend. And that's October. So with that trend, we expect that as of this time, baka more than 80% na po yung bakunado sa Department of Education. Next slide. Ayan, ito po yung binabanggit ko kanina, no? Yung sa 100 schools po natin na mayroong 1,401 personnel, 81.66% na po yung na nabakunahan, yung 7.14% ay nakarehistro na at naghihintay na lang ng bakuna. Yung mga unvaccinated na unregistered po ay 6.42% na lang. At pagka tiningnan nyo yan dito sa ibaba sa gawing kanan, makikita nyo ang mga kadahilanan. Karamihan ho ay dahil sa health reasons at yan po ay 1.5% lamang. Walang binanggit na dahilan, 1%. Merong mga buntis na 0.93% o 13 katao, merong mga may allergies at meron pang ibang mga kadahilanan. So yan ho yung vaccination na status sa DepEd at dun sa 100 schools na nagbukas kahapon. Maraming salamat po. Thank you, Director.
Maraming salamat, Director Lope. Nako, ingat po kayo dyan. Thank you very much for your update at maraming salamat at nasamahan niyo pa rin po kami kahit via Zoom man lang. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ngayon naman po ay makakasama rin natin ngayong umaga upang talakayin naman ang iba't ibang psychosocial mechanism programs at lahat po ng initiatives ng kagawaran patungkol po ito pati na sa ating mental health. Para sa ating mga learners at sa ating mga teachers, andito po ang Disaster Risk Reduction Management Service Director na si Director Ronilda Co. Good morning, Director Ronnie.
Good morning, Director Nina. At sa lahat po ng mga tagapakinig natin, sa ating mga guro, ating mga magulang, at syempre sa ating mga mag-aaral. O diba, sana nag-enjoy kayo sa unang araw ng pagbubukas ng ating pilot face-to-face classes. Ngayon naman po, ano ba ang suporta ng DepEd para naman dito sa ating psychosocial na kalagayan, ating mga psychological na kalagayan. Dahil isa sa pinakamatinding epekto ng pandemya ay sinasabi ng ang ating well-being dito sa ating mental and psychological na kalagayan. Kaya naman po ang DepEd, mula pa noon marami na tayong ginagawang mental health and psychosocial support services. Pero ngayon sa pagbubukas ng ating pilot, no, limited face-to-face learning modality, sinasabi sa ating Joint Memorandum Circular ng DepEd at ng DOH na mag-conduct ng psychosocial support para sa mga learners at mga personnel natin. Yan. Kaya naman, noong October pa lang, no, mga bandang last week na October, nagsimula tayo ng focus group discussion doon sa mga schools, no, na kasama sa pilot natin, no, for the face-to-face learning modality. Tinanong natin sila, no, ano bang mga kalagayan ng kanilang mga mag-aaral at ano ba ang tingin nila ay mga pangangailangan. At nagkonsulta tayo sa paggawa ng activity pack, no. Nagkaroon tayo, training natin sila sa isang psychological first aid at discussion sa referral system. No? Yung referral system po, meron po tayong inilabas ang ating mga kasamahan sa curriculum strand. No? Yung psychological first aid pala, ginagawa na po yan kahit noon pa, no? Kahit may mga salanta tulad ng mga bagyo, mga lindol. Yan ang pauna nating kumbaga pag-agap, no, ng mga epekto, no, sa kalagayang mental at psikolohikal ng ating mga personnel at ng ating mga mag-aaral. Yan, tinuruan natin ang ating mga teachers paano po siya ginagawa, ano po ang value nito. At nagkaroon din tayo ng sumunod na training ng whole of school approach on mental health at conduct ng psychosocial support activities. Dito kasama din natin ang School Health Division. And then nag-conduct tayo ng kumbaga mga simulation na paano gawin ang mga psychosocial support activities sa classroom para sa ating mga anak. And then, meron po tayong ginawa na tinatawag na Psychosocial Support Activity Pack for Teachers. Ito po ay para sa mga teachers, paano gawin, no, yung psychosocial activity para sa kinder. Meron po tayo for kinder na mga activities for grades 1 to 3 at saka yung senior high school. So iba-iba po, no, na itsura ng mga activities. Okay? Pero, yung Psychosocial Support Activity Pack ay ginawa natin, no, ng ating mga staff, no, ng Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Service together with the Magis Creative Spaces. Ito po ang external partner natin. Ano po yung laman, no, fina-follow ng Psychosocial Activity Pack? Yung activities ay sumusunod sa tatlong kumbaga parang principles, no, na siya nating gabay sa paggawa ng mga psychosocial activities. Una, yung I am. Yung dito ating pinapaigting yung safety at saka self-awareness and self-expression ng mga bata. Yung dapat aware sila ano ba yung mga nararamdaman nila. Nare-recognize nila at na-validate nila na it's okay not to be okay. Okay? And then yung I have. Yung mga capacities or ability for self-regulation and problem solving. Halimbawa, ano bang ginagawa, ano ang pwedeng gawin para mapakalma pag ikaw ay naiinis, yung mga ganyan. Okay? And then I can, yung building self-confidence, empathy, and self-compassion. Okay? Yung mga kakayahan ng mga bata, yung kakayahan din na makinig at makita yung pakiramdam ng iba. So ito po yung iba't ibang antas na tinitignan natin pag tayo ay gumagawa ng psychosocial activities. At binigyan din natin, gumawa tayo ng Psychosocial Support Evaluation Guide. Ito po ay guide para sa mga teachers sa pag-conduct nila. Para over the period of 2 months, makita nila na ang mga bata nga ba ay handa na at nakapag-adjust ba sila sa face-to-face na modality natin. So yan po ang ating ginawa para sa psychosocial support activities natin. Na siyang nung kahapon ay inumpisahan na ng ating mga guro. Okay? Meron po tayong ginagawa, no, na 1-week monitoring dito sa implementation ngayon ng ating mental health and psychosocial support, no, yung paggamit ng activity pack natin at yung pag-antabay, no, sa dinadaanan ng ating mga estudyante. Yung aming team po ay nasa, halimbawa ngayon ay nasa Masbate, no, para i-monitor yung mga schools doon. Meron din po tayong ginawa, no, doon sa sinasabi ng JMC, no, yung ating Joint Memorandum Circular, na mag-designate ng safety officer na siyang focal person doon sa health and safety protocols of the school. Ito naman po ang sinagawa natin sa DRRMS ay magkaroon ng basic occupational safety and health, yung tinatawag na BOSH training para sa mga school DRRM coordinators. Ito po ay sinagawa with the Department of Labor and Employment. Kasi para maging safety officer ka, kailangan ma-certify. May levels po kasi yan. So at least level 1, certified na sila na safety officer level 1. Yan. At gumawa din po tayo para sa preparasyon ng ating mga eskwelahan ng ilang IEC materials. Kung ano ba ang araw-araw na kailangan gawin, yung routine ng ating mga magulang at ng ating mga anak at ang eskwelahan mismo para po maging safe tayo mula sa bahay, papasok at pauwi ulit sa ating mga bahay. May nilabas po tayo both English and Tagalog versions nito. At today ilalabas din natin yung video naman nito. Tawag natin dyan ay yung Ready Kid, na ating infomercial para sa ligtas na balik eskwela. Abangan nyo po yan. Okay? And nung nakaraang linggo, one whole week, ang iba't iba pong execom natin, kasama ang kanilang ibang mga staff, ay nagkaroon ng inspection on school readiness for face-to-face. Yung pong strand, halimbawa, nakabilang kami nung kay Yusek Alain Del Pascua, yung Office of the Undersecretary for Administration, ay dumalaw sa Regions 1 and 3. 8 eskwelahan sa Zambales, mga 2 I think sa Pangasinan, Alaminos, and mga 5 sa Ilocos Norte. Ayan po, nakikita nyo, ang mga hindi lang mga bundok-bundok, hindi lang mga even rivers na binagtas para marating po yung mga eskwelahan natin. At nag-interview sila ng mga personnel sa readiness nga at ibinigay sa report na ready na po ang ating mga eskwelahan. At today, yesterday, with the start of the implementation, ay sinasagawa na ang mga safety and mental health protocols na nakalagay po sa ating mga JMC sa paghahanda ng balik eskwela. Ito po ang ilan sa nakahandaan ng ating mga schools. So mga kasamahan, ang ating mga guro, magulang at learners, sana po ay tayo ay sama-sama na maging ligtas sa lahat ng aspeto ang ating kalusugan na pisikal, mental at psikolohikal sa pagbabalik eskwela ngayong ating pilot face-to-face classes. Maraming salamat po. Director Nina, thank you po.
Maraming salamat at magandang umaga, Director Ronnie. Pangkabuuan po yan, Physical, mental, lahat-lahat na. Thank you very much, Director Ronnie, for your updates. Kasunod naman pong mag-a-update sa atin ay dapat alamin din natin ang mga naging paghahanda naman at mga naging assessment sa unang araw ng face-to-face classes sa mga participating schools sa iba't ibang regions. Ngayon po, makakapanayan po natin ating mga regional directors mula sa Region 4A, Region 7 at Region 10. Una ko pong tatawagin for the regional updates on face-to-face classes and yung naging preparations po for the first day of classes from Region 4A, Calabarzon. Andito po si RD Francis Vinas.
Hello, magandang umaga, Director Nina. At
Morning,
magandang umaga,
RD
syempre.
Kamusta?
Yeah, hello. Magandang umaga sa lahat ng mga nanonood at nakikinig sa ating press conference. At nagagalak ang inyong lingkod para ibalita naman kung ano yung nangyari sa Region 4A, yung mga participating schools natin, kaugnay ng unang araw ng pagbabalik eskwela ng 5 eskwelahan sa dibisyon ng Quezon. So, meron kaming presentation dyan, makikita natin yung location ng 5 schools sa ating susunod na slide. Yung location ng ating 5 schools identified as Lumutan Elementary School, Lagmak Elementary School at Dinigman Elementary School, lahat yan ay nasa general na car. So nakikita nyo sa mapa, medyo nasa sulok na siya ng lalawigan ng Quezon. At in fact, kapag pupunta ka sa mga schools na yan, kailangan mong maglakad ng 4 hanggang 8 oras mula sa pinakamalapit na babaan sa regular na transportation, no? So at ang pang-apat na school, yung Tamulaya Elementary School sa Pulilio Island yan, at yan yung binisita namin nila Yusek Malaluan noong November 4, kasama din si Director Masapol para i-validate at i-monitor ang kanilang mga preparations kaugnay nga sa pagbubukas ng eskwela. At yung panghuli, ito yung National High School namin, pero senior high school yan. It's located in Alapat, Quezon, yung Pablo de Maningas National High School. So, pagdating sa ating readiness, makikita nyo na puro check ang mga yan. Yan yung nakasaad doon sa ating school safety assessment tool. So pagdating sa physical facilities, health and safety protocols, partnership and linkages, data management, work arrangement and class programs, curriculum-related concerns, and capability building for teachers, lahat yan ay na-comply ng ating 5 schools. At makikita natin dyan na talagang the framework of shared responsibility is really working in each of these 5 locations of our limited face-to-face in the division of Quezon. At puntahan nga natin yung unang school natin sa Tamulaya Elementary School. Meron tayong total na 26 learners lang mula kinder hanggang grade 3. At yan, nakikita nyo sa ating mga pictures, yung itsura ng mga classrooms na binisita ng inyong lingkod kasama si Yusek na from the central office nung nakaraang linggo. At nakikita natin na ang kanilang shifting ay pag morning, meron tayong kinder at grade 1 at pag afternoon naman, grade 2 and grade 3 at 4 hanggang 4 na oras maximum lang yung kanilang ilalagi sa loob ng paaralan. At nakapag-comply lahat sila sa safety protocols. So sa susunod na slide, makikita nyo pa rin yung mga protocols na sinusunod ng mga bata bago pa lang pumasok at pagpasok sa loob ng kanilang mga silid-aralan. At nakikita naman natin, limited talaga kung ilang hanggang 7 o 6 na estudyante lang ang nasa loob ng ating mga silid-aralan. At nakikita natin dyan yung mga hand washing facilities natin at yung mga individual learning spaces ng mga bata. So nakatag lahat yung mga upuan ng mga bata sa morning shift at saka sa second shift. Doon sa ating susunod na eskwelahan, ito yung Pablo de Maningas Senior High School. Meron lang tayo dyan 18 na students mula sa grades 11 and 12 at sila yung mga kumukuha ng bread and pastry and food and beverages. Napag-alaman nga natin sa ating opisina na kahapon ay pumunta doon si Senator Win Gatchalian para personal din na ma-observe ang pag-open ng classes dito sa Pablo de Maningas Senior High School. So dyan nakikita natin dahil nga sabi natin ang mga offer natin na limited face-to-face sa senior high school ay yung mga specializations na nangangailangan ng in-hand or on-site na pagkakaroon ng immersion o kaya practicum. Kaya yan, nakikita natin yung mga laboratory activities ng mga safe learning spaces ng bawat bata. So sa first day activities, makikita pa rin natin na additional pictures natin sa susunod na slide, yung mga safety protocols naman na sinusunod ng mga school personnel at ang mga mag-aaral sa Pablo de Maningas National High School. Yung ating susunod na eskwelahan sa Lumutan Elementary School, ito po ay isang purely iPad school. Ibig sabihin, 100% ng ating mga learners, 96 of them in total, ay mula sa Dinagat Remontados na IIP community. So meron tayong kinder at grade 3 for a total of 96. Dalawa rin ang ating shifting dyan, isa sa umaga para sa kinder at grade, yung kalahati ng kinder, grade 1, grade 2, grade 3 ay nasa umaga at yung kalahati naman na natitira ay nasa hapon. So makikita natin dyan yung mga preparatory activities at napaka-importante kasi na meron tayong mga consultations with the chieftain and the elders kapag ang ating eskwelahan ay pure IP school. So sa ating susunod na eskwelahan sa Lagmak Elementary School, sa general na car pa rin ito, is also an IP school. At wala tayong shifting dito dahil nasa 42 lang yung ating mga mag-aaral dyan at lahat sila ay ma-accommodate na sa umaga. So ito yung ating mga eskwelahan at yung last natin, yung Dinigman Elementary School sa General Nakar, iPad school pa rin yan. Medyo mas marami tayong estudyante dito. Umaabot sila ng 50 learners mula kinder hanggang grade 3 at kakaiba naman ang kanilang mga inadapt na arrangements sa class schedule sa pag Monday and Wednesday yung kinder at grade 2 morning shift at sa Tuesday and Thursday yung ating grades 1 and 3 sa afternoon shift. So yan pa rin, nagto-total pa rin siya ng 4 hours per day. So makikita natin yung mga first day activities para lang ma-condition at ma-orient ang mga bata sa lahat ng mga safety protocols na susundin nila bago pumasok habang nasa loob ng silid-aralan at mula sa paaralan pauwi. Pagdating naman sa ating iPad schools in General Nakar, meron tayo talagang ikakandak na free, prior, and informed consent with the chieftain of the Dumagat tribe. Dahil nga ito ay isa sa mga requirements para makapagpatuloy tayo ng limited face-to-face classes sa mga barangay na ito. Pagdating naman po sa ating mga status of vaccination of the teaching and non-teaching staff, meron tayong data dyan na nagsasabi na wala na po sa ating mga teaching staff and non-teaching staff ang hindi vaccinated except doon sa dalawa na naka-leave because they are on maternity leave pero yung mga substitute nila are fully vaccinated. So naka-comply pa rin tayo sa provisions ng JMC, Joint Memorandum Circular ng DOH at ng Department of Health para sa vaccination ng ating mga teaching and non-teaching staff sa mga schools na magkakandak ng ating face-to-face. So kahapon nga nakapagkuha tayo ng mga updates maliban lang sa Lagmak Elementary School at Lumutan Elementary School dahil ito yung dalawa sa pinakamalayong schools natin na nagpa-participate dito. Kailangan mong maglakad ng 4 hanggang 8 oras para marating yung schools na ito. And these schools are off-grid at wala tayong ine-expect talaga na internet access mula sa mga paaralan na yan. So ine-expect naman natin that they will be providing updates on a weekly basis. Meron na rin tayong nakaschedule from courtesy of the Division of Quezon Province na mga on-site monitoring of the conduct of the limited face-to-face classes in all of these areas. Kasama na dyan ang scheduled ocular inspection din ng mga regional personnel natin. So yan yung latest sa Division of Quezon. Siya yung nagre-represent ng buong Calabarzon dahil nga sa Quezon lang nagkaroon ng mga approved schools to conduct the limited face-to-face classes in entire Calabarzon. Maraming salamat, Director Nina.
Thank you, RD Chetty. Very comprehensive report no, mula dun sa mga physical preparations hanggang sa orientation, hanggang sa vaccination report ng ating mga kaguruan. Thank you very much. Kasunod naman po, dumako na tayo sa ating Visayas region. Susunod na Regional Director na magbibigay po ng updates, ukol pa rin po sa first day ng pilot implementation of face-to-face classes. Andito po si Regional Director Salustiano Jimenez. Magandang umaga. May buntag, RD Sal.
Ayong buntag, Director Nina. No? Good morning to all, especially to our beloved Secretary, no? Secretary Leonor Mamliling Magtulis Briones, and to everyone. So, mayong buntag from Central Visayas, Region 7. Nakita na po ba?
Yes, RD Sal, we can see your presentation.
Thank you so much. No, so actually, in the DepEd in general and DepEd Region 7 desire to give the learners the kind of education that prepare them best for their future. Hence, moving heaven and earth to make sure that education shall continue amidst challenges. So in DepEd Region 7, we have this path to live. Live means learning continues, improve quality, virus resiliency, and engage stakeholders. And we will realize this with the development that we have. No? So the pilot implementation of limited face-to-face. So actually in Central Visayas, there are 8 schools who will be joining or who joined the pilot limited face-to-face based on the final assessment of the Department of Health. So these are the 8 schools. Actually, they are located and situated in the tip on the tip of the sides of Cebu area, because all the 8 schools are located in Cebu. No, we do not have any school from Bohol, Siquijor, and Negros Oriental because of the alert level. And here in the northernmost tip of Cebu, we have from the city of Bugo, Siocon Elementary School. Then also we have from Pilar, it's a Pilar National High School in Kawit. It's another, it's an island of Camotes. Then we also have Luyong Baybay Elementary School of Bantayan Island. Then Kabagdalan Elementary School of Balamban. And in the southern part or tip of Cebu, we also have Mahanlod Elementary School of Malabuyok, Basak Elementary School of Sambuan, Mualbual Busay National High School, then Kanyang Marcelo Luna National High School. So these 8 schools actually were visited prior to the implementation, no? Just the implementation yesterday. So last week and last month, we visited all the schools to see to it that we could give assistance, the technical assistance. So we even have some reasons for pilot limited face-to-face. It's been laid down, no, and communicated to stakeholders, both internal and external stakeholders. Aside from that, we also have plans and also have set a guide, especially on the pre-implementation stage, the implementation stage, and during the monitoring and evaluation stage. So each school will be joining the pilot limited face-to-face, a prepared limited face-to-face implementation plan, of course, with a contingency plan. With that, we adjusted the basic education learning continuity plan. Then we also have surveys, dialogues, and consultations with the parents, with the local government units, and also other sectors. No? So we conducted this. And also creation of task force on monitoring the implementation of limited face-to-face in a multi-sectoral membership. We also established and complied all the protocols, also the preparation of schedules, activities for the learners and teachers. We see to it that the readiness of educational school facilities and upkeeping of facilities been checked thoroughly. Now for the vaccination side, all the teachers who will be having classes face-to-face are vaccinated. Now, if you can see in here, there are some areas here like in Luyong Baybay, number of personnel, both teaching and non-teaching, 13, then only 12 because one is still scheduled for vaccination. But this one is not involved in the conduct of the face-to-face classes. So this teacher is handling a higher grade, and soon that teacher will be vaccinated. Same with teachers in Busay National High School, because we are only having limited face-to-face in the senior high school. The 3 who will be scheduled for vaccination are within the junior high school. Okay, so that's for the vaccination. And here are also some of the pictures that we get during our monitoring and visits. No. So in all our schools, the 8 schools who joined the pilot limited face-to-face, so that we could give the technical assistance. This is the before the conduct of limited face-to-face starting yesterday. So all the schools were visited. We have this initially, and after after our visits, pre-implementation stage visits, we gave them the technical assistance and also oriented all our personnel, both the teaching and non-teaching, of course, with the local government units and other non-government organizations and other stakeholders, even the barangay officials and the PTA, no, who joined us. So there were orientations made, and then even during our monitoring before, I think that was last week, we were joined by our Undersecretary for Field Operations, USIC Attorney Rivsi Escobedo. So we went to Pilar National High School in Kawit Pilar, Camotes, and also Luyong Baybay Elementary School in Bantayan Island, Cebu. So it was really a great experience because sa panahong yon, grabe yung low tide. So naghintay pa kami hanggang almost 11 o'clock sa gabi so that we can go back to the mainland. So yun ang mga experience namin, naglakad sa baybayin para talaga para sa bata, para sa bayan. With in fact even the orientation and some important instructions in Luyong Bayban were made during night time, no? Kasi na gabi na kami nakaabot doon. Then during also the conduct of during the implementation stage, we see to it that all the protocols been complied with. The stringent compliance to the health and safety protocols and all the other requirements so that the implementation shall be done smoothly and orderly. So during also the start of the conduct of the limited face-to-face classes, no implementation yesterday, we are also blessed because Undersecretary for Curriculum and Instruction, USIC Diosdado San Antonio, was with us, no, in the monitoring, and we monitored 2 schools, 1 high school and 1 elementary. So we went yesterday to Oslob and visited Kanyang National High School. Kanyang National High School for our visit, and we are all impressed really with, in fact, USIC DAD San Antonio was almost teary-eyed seeing all our learners. Faces, no? The excitement and the enthusiasm to be back in school, and also to all our teaching and non-teaching personnel with the stakeholders who are there joining with us. So grabe talaga yung feelings, no? So at saka yesterday in Kanyang Marcelo Luna National High School in Oslob, so they are offering beauty care. When in fact I was the one who was the first client of a learner, a grade 12 learner, for my haircut. So this is the result of the haircut yesterday of that learner, grade 12 learner. And after Kanyang Marcelo Luna National High School, we proceeded to Basak Elementary School in Sambuan, wherein we are also amazed, and we really were impressed of the preparations and the conduct, no? So yung mga bata, grabe talaga yung excitement, no, na nakita namin. At saka lalo na sa the way the school welcomed our learners back to school. So maraming ginagawa lang, mayroon pang balon, yung iba kumakanta pa welcoming the learners. So yun, and other schools also, we also had reports yesterday, and about other 6 schools who were not visited by us yesterday. So the Shukon Elementary School, we also have Shukon Elementary School in the city of Bugo. We also have from Kabagdalan in Balamban, Cebu. Manhalod Elementary School in Malabuyok, and also Busay National High School in Mual Boal, Cebu. So in general, all the schools first day really was a great success, and I could affirm what Secretary Biones mentioned when she said it was really a monumental day yesterday. So far, all preparations are paid off because the first day of classes of the limited face-to-face was really a success. So looking forward for the great success of this pilot limited face-to-face classes. So Ma'am Ninya, thank you so much, and that is all for now for our report from updates from Region 7 Central Visayas, and more reports coming because every day we do monitor the face-to-face classes of the different schools in Central Visayas po. God bless po, and thank you very much.
Daghang salamat, RD Sal, and keep us posted with your continuous updates. Thank you very much. Next naman po, we will have another regional update. Punta naman po tayo sa Region 10. Makakasama po natin for his updates, RD Arturo Bayopot.
Magandang umaga po,
tanghali
Director Nina.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Director Nina, for giving us the opportunity to give you the updates on the implementation of our limited face-to-face. Our hearts really are full, no? Looking at the facial expressions of our learners and even parents who joined with the kids going to school na very excited. Although there's quite a little bit restrictions, too much restrictions in the school, but nakikita natin na masyadong masigasig na ang mga magulang, and even those that are still not convinced about the timely limited face-to-face are now convinced, and nagpapalista na po sila for the additional classes to be organized because they really would like to join. No? And please allow me to share to you my screen focused on the highlights and the updates of the limited face-to-face in Region 10, Northern Mindanao. If we take a look at the slide, these are our schools now implementing the limited face-to-face for the pilot run. And we have 6 schools in Lanao del Norte, 3 schools in the province of Bukidnon, and 1 school in El Salvador City. And this constitute the 10 pilot schools for the limited face-to-face. Ito po mga eskwelahan na ito, 9 of these schools really are, well, para maintindihan ng lahat, sinasabi namin na ito ay mga bukid schools. They really are in the far-flung areas, and we have considered them and as evaluated also by Department of Health that they are really ready in accordance to the compliance of our school readiness assessment tool. And halos lahat ng mga kabataan sa mga eskwelahan ito ay naglalakad lang papuntang eskwelahan because that's the means of going to the schools to and fro. No? And so ito po, itong isang San Francisco de Asis Elementary School, although city siya and adjacent to Cagayan de Oro City, but this is also away from the highway. So if you look at these schools, the screen would tell you the enrollment of kindergarten to grade 3. And among the 10 schools, we only have 1 high school, Marcela Mabanta National High School. This is in the province of Lanao del Norte, which pilot the TechVoc class for 12 students only. No? And nakikita ninyo ang enrollment seen in the figures, grades 1, 2, and 3. And you will realize that maliliit talaga siya ng mga eskwelahan. Except for merong itong Masibay Integrated School na medyo malaki-laki yung mga enrollment nila. And they have organized more than 1 class to comply. How many should be contained to observe distancing? And so they are doing a rotational reporting to school in small cohorts. No? The next slide is on the preparation. Well, napag-usapan ang work arrangements and we saw in their schedule how is the rotational reporting to school is being managed. Na nakikita ko talaga that they are compliant with the nitty-gritty on the provisions of our joint memorandum circular of DepEd and Department of Health. Of course, ang classroom layouting and structuring, and when we visited the schools prior to the implementation 2 weeks ago, and even during the dry run, because we had a simultaneous dry run last Wednesday of last week, at nakikita namin how actions are taking place. And we also gave some suggestions, especially na eskwelahan, alam mo naman yung mga classrooms, ang daming mga shelves, ang daming mga corner-corner, reading corner and all that, and it occupies space. So we advise them to move it a little bit far. At kung yung mga non-essentials ay tanggalin muna so that we will be able to really observe the distancing requirement. And of course, ventilation, because sometimes congested classrooms would really also mean ventilation is in question. Nagkaroon sila ng practice, tinitingnan namin paano ma-traffic yung mobility ng mga bata. How can this be managed? Not just getting into the school, but even getting into the classroom. Yung mga magulang, dahil sumasama doon sa kindergarten, there was a tug of war whether mag-put up sila ng holding area or waiting area for the parents or not. And they have decided, all of them decided not to establish a holding area or waiting area for parents, because that can also be a COVID spreader in terms of parents talking with each one. No? And then, of course, ang protective measures, hygiene practices, and safety procedures. Nakikita namin, I have photos in the last slide, na na-ensure talaga itong paghuhugas at kailangan may water supply. And we're also very happy that myself also delivered those donations from the GIZ na mga water, portable water, hand washing facility, and all the other materials that are delivered. And kami din sa region, namimigay din po kami. And nag-constitute kami ng 10 monitoring teams in the regional office, partnered with the 10 monitoring teams of the division office, and we traveled together to ensure that all the 10 schools are being covered in the monitoring. Of course, importante yung communication strategy. Nakikita namin even in the simulation. Paano pinag-uusapan ng komunidad, lalong-lalo na ng mga parents, itong mga bagay-bagay na kakailanganin natin sa ating implementation ng limited face-to-face. Unang-una din, tiningnan namin ang contingency plan. We followed the scenario planning, the scenarios that are contained in our issuance. Kung ito mangyari, anong dapat gawin? Kung itong scenario 2, ito dapat ang gagawin natin. And they have discussed that thoroughly para ma-factored in sa kanilang plan. On screen right now are the vaccination status of the teachers under these 10 pilot schools for the limited face-to-face. And apparently, those marked red, only 3 teachers are not vaccinated. No? So, like for example, in Babalaya, 7 out of 7, Dalama, 14 out of 15. So there's 1, 11 out of 12, there's 1. So, etong mga nakasulat na hindi pa vaccinated are already in the priority listing for vaccination as interceded by the local government unit. Although, ang iba nito, itong dalawang nasa baba, medyo may mga pangamba pa whether they will go on vaccination considering their health status with comorbidities and awaiting for the advice of their doctors. No? And these teachers who are in red or unvaccinated are not part of the limited face-to-face, and they manage the distance learning, which is a component of our blended learning, distance combination with face-to-face. So meron pa rin silang trabaho, the usual, and doon sila naatasan. On the stakeholders participation, ito po, na-ensure talaga ito as requirement, no? The barangay, municipal, and municipal health, and then the parental consent, all these certifications really were presented in folders during our visits. And of course, yan po ay katibayan na nagkaroon talaga ng komunikasyon with the school and the community para ma-ensure that this is really a shared responsibility and not just of the schools. And of course, mayroon silang simulation, nakikita nyo yung mga barriers na meron talaga silang cubicles with acetates that are used to separate from one seat to the other. And of course, ang school heads stakeholders participation din, sila po ang nag-sponsor ng mga minor repairs, lalong-lalo na yung mga classrooms natin with only one door, and they have to have a two-door classroom so that the entrance and the exit are different doors. Ito po ay ginastusan talaga ng local government unit, and we are happy for their support on that note. Talagang binutasan ang dingding upang magkaroon ng isang pintuan, and then they also sponsored the provision of the PPEs. We are happy, and matter of fact, the Office of the Civil Defense in the region also participated in providing the PPEs to our 10 schools. Now we're happy the director himself came to my office and talked about it. And so they also on their own ways also delivered those that we have procured for our 10 pilot schools. No? So talagang ito ay usapin ng lahat at hindi lang po DepEd because this is everybody's concern. The provision of potable water, ito po ay talagang pinangungunahan ng ating mga alkalde. And we're happy that during our visits in the 10 schools, halos in full force yung municipal officials were present, even if the school is just located in the barangay. No? The hygiene kits and the installation of ventilation facilities were also taken care of by our LGUs. And if you look at this, ito po, ang ating teaching and non-teaching personnel who are vaccinated are at the forefront of the teaching and learning, itong nasa green. At ito pong mga who are fully vaccinated but with comorbidity, we're still considering them. They hold the other learning alternative delivery modalities. And of course, etong nasa baba, teaching and non-teaching personnel who are partially not vaccinated, we really did not put them to, we did not miss any single chance that they will also be targets of infection. So, ganon. At lalo na itong mga pula. We have to provide guidance in terms of facilitating na mabakunahan sila in our connections with the LGUs. Ang class schedule nila, sample lang po ito, and you notice that the hand washing is really part of the class schedule periodically. Even if they're not going out, that they really have to internalize and institutionalize the washing habit. And of course, yung psychosocial activities, even if the first week will probably focus on the psychosocial. But eventually, when the class program will be followed, kailangan magkaroon talaga ng psychosocial day after day and will form part of the program which is the first hour in the schedule. No? Mahalaga po yan kasi hindi po pwedeng pag-usapan ng isang beses lang ito. And then, of course, these are the photos during our visits, and ang dami pong photos, but the interest of time, iilan lang po ang aming pinakita. But we really required, even if it isn't required in the Joint Memorandum Circular, yung barrier talaga ng ating mga upuan o lamesa upang maihiwalay ang mga bata in terms of the possible COVID spread. Please allow me to also share some issues and concerns that we have discussed in our exit conference kasi bago yung team lumabas, nakastruktura na po ang aming plano sa monitoring. It will be ended by an exit conference kahapon. And ito po, nagtatanong sila sa sustainability or meron silang pangamba. Well, for now, they have the luxury of the 100,000 initial support of the Department of Education per school. Meron naman din silang MOE, although kakarampot lang kasi kakokonti lang ang mga bata sa mga eskwela na nagpa-pilot, and per student capita, kakokonti lang talaga yung kanilang ano. But of course, we continue the support of other sectors. That's why
nasa press ko po.
And then the
Ito
availability of
po yung press ko ng DepEd ngayon. Yung sumama
and then the presence of school clinic, we realized that this is very essential. Ano to?
Ayan, RDR, you're back na po. We can hear you na po.
Sorry, na-unmute pala ako.
Oo, kanina po.
Ito nakikita nyo yung physical issues regarding na mga pangamba ng ating mga eskwelahan. No? And meron kasing isang eskwelahan doon na walang bakod talaga at ginastusan ito ng mayor. And we saw the advantage kasi yung principal pala ng eskwelahan ay asawa ng mayor. So ginawan talaga ng concrete fence. Gaano kalaki yung school site talagang ginawa nila. Only in 2 week time, we were surprised nung kami bumalik at ready na. Yung mga contingency plans nila nandoon, but you know, once they are already there, iba talaga ang pangamba. No? Example, how ready are our teachers and school leaders on any eventualities in case there are COVID spread within the school or within the family of these children where they come from. No? So nagkaroon sila ng pag-uusap, practice, and ang sabi ko nilang, mind conditioning and confidence building kasi kung talagang God forbids, if it happens, we really have to address that. Paano yung tracking system, yung referral, and even how to treat those that are infected. No? Kailangan talagang tugunan yan. And kailangan nakasulat sa plano. But that's what I've said. It's different once you are there. You cannot just simply say, you cross the bridge once you get there already. So kailangan talaga may paghahanda. And then of course, kailangan natin ang continuous capacity building because this will also enhance the confidence and the readiness of these teachers and school leaders regarding the issues I have presented earlier. No? At pati yung learning delivery modality internalization. Paano ba talaga itong limited face-to-face? And how this should be backed up with the modular approach, for example. No? Kasi if you look at the scheduling, relying heavily in terms of time allotments, doon pa rin sa modular. And back up lang ng ating limited face-to-face. Assessment is still an issue. Daming gray areas ng assessment. That's why they're taking advantage of meeting the children in this limited face-to-face to also factor in major concerns about assessment. Kasi ang problema talaga natin ngayon is validation of learning and assessment of learning in the distance learning. Now that there's limited face-to-face, we hope we can do this well. And sa sinabi ko kanina, marami na po ang nagiging maingay ngayon na sasali sa ating limited face-to-face. And we hope that we shall be able in time to expand the grade levels because not just limited only to K Stage 1 and grade 12 or TVL. So we might probably expand to grade levels and even expand to many schools already. Kasi alam nyo naman na kahit hindi sila na-identify ng DOH but with the limit of 100, marami po tayong eskwelahan na napakahandang-handa na rin po para sumali sa ating face-to-face. Marami pong salamat at ito po yung ating sitwasyon dito sa Northern Mindanao.
Thank you very much, RD Art, for your updates. At talaga namang naging emosyonal no, ang pagbabalik eskwela. Gaya nga ng sinabi ni RD Sal, ni RD Art na medyo mangyak-ngyak at maluha-luha yung ating mga students, pati na rin po ating mga teachers at mga magulang. Maraming salamat po for your updates at sa lahat ng ating mga regional directors. We'd like to say congratulations dahil na isa katuparan po natin yung ating first day of limited pilot face-to-face classes. Ngayon naman po, pagkatapos po yung ating regional updates, dumako naman tayo sa ating national scale na updates ukol dito sa ating pilot limited face-to-face classes. Tawagin ko po ang ating Assistant Secretary for Field Operations and National Academy of Sports. Andito po si ASEC Malcolm Garma to give us his updates.
Yeah, magandang tanghali po sa lahat. Magandang tanghali, Director Nina at sa ating pong secretary. Katatapos lang po namin doon sa laging handa, no? So kaya ngayon lang po kami nakasama dito sa ating press con. So I think Director Nina, reflective naman no kung ano yung naiulat na no ng ating pong dalawang regional directors. Basically reflective po 'yan halos sa lahat ng rehiyon na lumahok no dito sa ating pilot implementation ng face-to-face sa buong bansa no, maliban lamang doon sa mga rehiyon na hindi pa kabilang no o wala pang mga paaralang kabilang no dito sa ating limited face-to-face no, katulad po ng Region 2, ang Cordillera Autonomous Region, ang Mimaropa at syempre yung National Capital Region. So patay po sa ating ginawang pag-iikot kahapon, yan po yung pangkalahatang sitwasyon na nakita natin no, mula po sa mga paaralan na nagsagawa nitong pilot run. Maliban lamang dahil ako po ay nandoon sa Zambales kahapon, no, upang personal din pong tignan kung ano po yung naging sitwasyon, no, doon sa tatlong paaralan na hindi po nakapag-umpisa kahapon, no, at nakapagbigay na po tayo. Partikular ang Division of Zambales ay nakapagbigay na ho ng opisyal na pahayag tungkol sa kadahilanan, no, kung bakit hindi nakapag-umpisa kahapon itong tatlong paaralan na ito. Kanina po sa ating press con, no, with Laging Handa, kasama po natin doon si RD May Eclar ng DepEd Region 3 at bahagi po siya ng isang magandang balita na yung pong mga teachers, no, na nag-positive sa antigen testing na sumailalim naman ho sa confirmatory test ay negative na po sila. So anytime po siguro next week ay maaari na hong makapag-umpisa na itong tatlong paaralan sa lalawigan ng Zambales. Gusto rin ho nating bahagi, Director Nina, no, sa ating pong mga kasamahan sa media na batay po sa aming tala, no, ng mga bilang ng mga batang lumahok o nakarehistro para lumahok dito sa pilot ay umabot na po tayo ng 6,213. Pero wala pa ho tayong datos, no, mula sa dalawang rehiyon, so maaring tumaas pa ho ito. Ibig po sabihin nito, Director Nina, halos maaabot din natin, no, yung bilang ng mga mag-aaral na nakatala sa atin sa taon na ito, no, na umaabot ng around 8,000. So with the 6,200 plus learners that already registered to participate in the pilot run, minus the 2 regions that are yet to submit their data, baka humaabot natin yung halos 100% na participation rate, no, ng ating pong mga mag-aaral from kinder to grade 3 at yung pong senior high school natin. So ito po ay nagpapakita ng lubos na suporta ng ating pong mga stakeholders dito sa ating pilot run, no. Doon naman po sa bilang ng mga guro, umaabot na rin po tayo ng mga mahigit 900 guro, no. May hinintay lang po tayong datos na maaari makadagdag pa sa bilang ng mga teachers natin na talagang masigasig, no, at very excited to participate, no, dito sa ating implementation ng pilot face-to-face. So, Rego, ito po yung ating presentation, but siguro kahit kasi binavalidate pa natin yung ilang data, no. Okay, sige. Anyway, paki-run through na nga, Rego. Okay, katulad po ng nabanggit ko, ito na po yung binabanggit ko kanina, no, na naging sitwasyon, no, doon sa lalawigan ng Zambales. Pero doon po sa 7 sa 10 po na paaralan na lumahok, no, sa pilot face-to-face natin sa lalawigan ng Zambales, 7 po dyan na nandoon sa Botolan, no, yung munisipyo ng Botolan ay nagtuloy po, no, ng kanilang face-to-face classes kahapon. Sige, galaw na po yung ating slide. Okay, mamaya po kung hapon, matapos po ito mga pulong balitaan natin, kami po ay merong itinakdang pagpupulong, no? Kasama po ang ating mga regional directors upang pag-usapan na ho yung indicative number natin, ilan pa ho yung madadagdag natin, no, na paaralan dito sa ating pilot study, no? At ito po ay kabibilangan na ng lahat ng rehiyon, no? At napakalaki ho ng posibilidad kung gaganda pang lalo, no, ang sitwasyon ng National Capital Region insofar as COVID is concerned ay makasama na rin, no, yung mga paaralan mula sa NCR. Kasama na rin, no, sa pag-uusapan yung mga private schools, no, kung ilan pa ho yung madadagdag natin. Patay na rin po sa naging pagpayag ng ating Pangulo na bigyan, no, ng otoridad ang Department of Education na tansyahin, no, kung gaano pa o ano pa ang ilalawak nitong ating programang pilot. Ito po yung bago mag-expansion program. So ito po yung pilot pa lang na pinag-uusapan natin. So doon po sa tala ng mga 100 public schools, hindi naman ho nagbago yan. Wala hong pagbabago yung mga paaralan no, na lumahok. So yan po yung naiulat na namin sa inyo nung nakaraan na pulong balitaan natin dito sa EduAKSYON. Sige, pakiangat na po yung slide. Nabanggit na rin ho natin nung nakaraang pulong balitaan natin na may ilang paaralan na napalitan, no? At nabanggit na ho natin yung mga naging dahilan kung bakit po sila napalitan. Sige, pakiangat na po yung slide. Sige po. May kopya na ho nitong presentasyon na ito ang ating mga kasamahan sa media. Gaya po na nabanggit ko, wala naman hong nabago no, doon sa 100 public schools. At ito po yung dahilan ng mga napalitan. Pero sa ngayon, simula po kahapon sa pag-uumpisa, wala pa ho tayong pinapalitang paaralan. Sige po. So ito po yung binabanggit ko mga bilang kanina. Pero nagkaroon ho ng update itong datos natin. No? Kaya po ang binabanggit ko ngayon, sa kabuuan, ang atin pong bilang ay 6,213. Bagamat hinihintay pa ho natin yung datos mula sa dalawang rehiyon. At ito pong bilang na ito, para ho mas accurate, ay ibabangga ho natin no, doon sa ating learner information system. No? Para nang sa ganon, maitag po natin lahat po ng mga mag-aaral na lumahok o lalahok dito sa pilot face-to-face, maitag po natin yung kanilang learner reference number para ho mas accurate yung learner's profile natin. But for the meantime, just to give you an idea how many learners have participated or have registered no, to participate in the pilot in the 100 public schools, yan po yung bilang natin. Sige, next slide. So ito po yung bilang ng bawat batay po sa naisumiti sa aming datos sa bawat paaralan. Ito po yung bilang ng mga mag-aaral. Sige, hindi na po natin isa-isahin. Interested to know the numbers, we will coordinate with the PAS for the release of a more validated and complete data of learner data. Sige. Sige, paki-scroll up na, please. Okay. So ito naman po yung bilang ng mga teaching and non-teaching personnel no, na lumahok. Gaya po ng naipahayag na namin kanina sa ating pulong balitaan no, sa laging handa. At batay na rin po sa opisyal na pahayag ng ating pong kalihim, hindi lang po yung mga bata ang naging masaya sa pagbabalik ng ating nila no, sa paaralan. Pati ho yung mga guro at kitang-kita naman no, doon sa mga footages, no, video and photo footages na nakuha natin ay at pagtatanong na rin no, mismo sa mga guro. Sila po ay excited at natutuwa at sila po yung maasa na mas magiging madgaan no, yung kanilang pagtuturo dahil mas monitor nila o mas matututukan na nila yung progress ng kanilang mga mag-aaral ngayon na nasa school na sila. Bagamat hati pa rin no, sa isang araw, half day in school and half day to continue the home-based learning naman. So yan po yung bilang natin, no? Unofficial tally natin ng mga teachers who have joined or who have participated in the pilot run of our limited face-to-face. Okay, slide, paki-scroll up na po. So ito po yung breakdown per school. But then again, we will be giving you a more accurate and complete numbers, no? Thank you. Sige, paki-scroll up na po. Okay. So, Director Nina, so far yan lang po muna yung maibabahagi natin sa ating mga kasamahan sa media at syempre sa ating mga taga-subaybay, no, nitong ating lingguhang programa. Maraming salamat po.
Maraming salamat, Asek Garma, for your updates. Ngayon naman po, dumako naman tayo sa mga pinakabagong impormasyon patungkol sa ating mga private schools na nakatakdaring sumalang sa pilot face-to-face classes. Makakasama natin ngayon ang ating Director for Bureau of Curriculum Development. Andito po si Director Jocelyn Andaya. Over to you, Director Joyce.
Maraming salamat, Director Nina. Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. Para po sa kaalaman ng lahat, hindi lamang po mga pampublikong eskwelahan ang naghahanda at naghanda para sa pilot face-to-face classes. Hinikayat po sila ng ating mahal na Secretary, si Secretary Biones, at na lumahok ang mga pribadong paaralan at kung kaya tahimik naman sila na naghanda para makasali din sila dito sa pilot face-to-face. Kagaya ng pampublikong paaralan, excited din sila na magbukas ng klase at maturuan ang mga bata. Kung kaya naman, marami ang mga lumahok. So, pero nais ko po munang sabihin na ang prosesong dinaanan ng public schools ay pareho din ang proseso ng dinaanan ng ating private schools. Ang application po nila ay kanilang inilagak sa regional office at ang regional office ay ibinigay yung application o isinumiti muna sa Schools Division Office para evaluate. At the same time, they inspected the school. Then afterwards, the Schools Division Office submitted the same, the recommendations to the regional office. At ang regional office po ay nagbigay ng kung meron silang 30 pribadong pampaaralan na pwedeng mag-participate sa face-to-face. Ayon po sa JMC or sa Joint Memorandum Circular ng DOH at DepEd at maging sa ating DM71 series of 2021, pinapayagan po ang 20 o 20 private schools na makilahok sa pilot face-to-face. So ito po yung nangyari. We have the regions submitted, or each region is allowed to submit a maximum of 3 private schools. As of last November 12, 79 private schools nationwide submitted to the regional offices their expression of intent to participate. And then from the 79 po, 33 private schools were nominated by 12 regional offices to the DepEd Central Office. Wala pong nomination sa Region 2, sa CAR, at sa Region 4B due to their alert level classification, and no private schools were recommended by Region 4A based on their assessment of the applications. So all in all po, from the 33 private schools that were submitted to the Private Education Office for assessment, 20 private schools were selected. And those that were not selected for pilot run will be considered in the expansion phase na sinabi naman kanina ni Asek Garma. So nung ibinigay po yung mga 33 schools sa amin, tiningnan po namin sila, in-evaluate po yung kanilang mga dokumento using the following criteria. It's located in a different area of the region from the participating public school. Na allowed naman ng DOH. So for instance, if the public school is in a rural part, then prioritize a private school which is in the urban part of the region. Then those with a different program offering from the participating public school. So for instance, ang nakuha sa public schools ay puro elementary school, baka pwedeng yung nag-submit ay na private school ay senior high naman ang kanyang i-open. And then yung mga private school na makaka-accommodate ng mas maraming mga klase or sections. Tapos walking distance lang po yung school sa bahay ng mga bata at ng mga school personnel. With more fully vaccinated school personnel, the schools that cater to learners with special needs or SPED, tsaka yung ating mga indigenous peoples, and yung mga senior high TVL that participate in the senior high school voucher program. So ito po yung mga na-nominate po na 33 schools. Meron pong submission ng NCR, Raya School, Vanguard Academy, Summit School, And then ang Cordillera Administrative Region, hindi po sila nakapag-sumite dahil nga sa kanilang alert level. Sa Region 1, Alamino City, 100 Islands Cowboy Christian Learning Center at sa Lawag City, Our Saviors Foundation. Region 2, no school passed the regional office assessment. Sa Region 3, meron tayong San Fernando City, Mother of Good Counsel Seminary, sa Zambales, Academica de Meridian, and sa Angeles City, Singapore School Clark. Sa Region 4A, walang ni-recommend ang regional office, hindi nakapasa doon sa assessment nila. Sa 4B naman, because of the alert status, hindi na rin sila nakapagsumiti. Sa Region 5, Catanduanes po, 2, the Blooming Child Development School and Christian Polytechnic Institute of Catanduanes International Academy Incorporated. At saka sa Albay, Sunshine International School Foundation. Sa Region 6, 3 po yung schools doon. Sa Antique, St. Anthony's College, Iloilo, 2, Oxmont Memorial Academy, and Gamot Cogon Waldorf School. Sa Region 7, sa Cebu Province, Sisters of Mary School Boys Town, at saka sa Talisay naman ay Sisters of Mary School Girls Town, and in Bohol, Holy Infant Academy. In Region 8, Borongan City, Seminario de Jesus Nazareno, Leyte, Notre Dame of Abuyog, and in Ormoc City, Mount Moriah Christian Academy. Pagdating po sa Region 9, 3 pong schools din ang isinumiti ng regional office. In Zamboanga, Sibugay, Marcelo Espinola School, in Dipolog City, Metro Dipolog Baptist Academy, and in Pagadian City, Pagadian Junior College Incorporated. In Region 10, Cagayan de Oro City, Xavier University Senior High School. In Oroquieta City, Deor and Dun Academy of Technology. And in Iligan City, St. Paul's Institute of Technology of Iligan City Incorporated. Pagdating naman po sa Davao, sa Region 11, sa Davao del Sur, it's Ato Padada Christian School. Region 12, sa South Cotabato, Bangay Evangelical Church Elementary School and Best College of Polomolok. And then in North Cotabato, Midsayap Montessori Center. And sa Region 13, 3 din po yung applications. Agusan del Norte, ito yung St. James High School. Bayugan City, New Moriah Adventist Elementary School. And Surigao del Norte, St. Peter and Paul Parish Learning Center. So ang summary po natin, 79 po ang nag-express ng interest. Tapos ang pumasa po sa regional level ay 33 at nung tiningnan pa ng PEO or ng Private Education Office, meron po tayong 20. So ito na po yung selected private schools for pilot run as of yesterday po. In Region 1, Alamino City, 100 Islands Cowboy Christian Learning Center, and sa Lawag City, Our Saviors Foundation. Sa Region 3, kinuha din po natin lahat sa San Fernando, sa Zambales at sa Angeles City, Mother of Good Counsel, Academica de Meridian, and Singapore School Clark. Region 6, Antique, yung 3 din pong kanilang mga applications, kinuha din po natin. Region 7, sa Cebu Province, sa Sisters of Mary School, Boys Town. Sa Region 8, 2 po, Notre Dame of Abuyog and Mount Moriah Christian Academy. Sa Region 9, Metro Dipolog Baptist Academy. Region 10, lahat po ng schools doon na nag-apply at binigay sa atin ng regional office. Yun din po ang ating ni-recommend. Region 11, ito po yung Ato Padada Christian School. Sa lang po ito. Region 12, ganun din po sa South Cotabato. And then sa Caraga, New Moriah Adventist Elementary School. So ito pong lahat ng private schools na nakasulat ngayon, itong 20, sila po ang magpa-participate sa atin for the pilot run. Ang kanila pong mga dokumento or kanilang mga pangalan ay isinumiti din po natin sa DOH for their information. Ito po yung nasa level 2 and level 2 na according to the assessment of the Department of Health. Yung iba po na hindi nakasama dito, na nag-apply, the 13 of them, they lack the documents when these applications were submitted to us in the central office. Plus, meron din pong naging pasama sa alert levels 3 and 4. Kaya po hindi sila nakasama dito sa ating listahan. Ang next step po sa amin ay sa bukas po yun, mag-orient na po tayo doon sa 20 private schools, yung pinag-usapan kanina ni Director Ronilda ko ng mga preparations ay isasalang din po natin ang ating 20 private schools doon at iba pang mga reminders for all the 20 private schools. Sa November 22 po, next week, Monday, start na po din ng private schools and perhaps during the course of the pilot run, we'll be monitoring the implementation, the pilot face-to-face classes. Yun lamang muna sa ngayon, Director Nina, tungkol sa aking report on the private schools. Maraming salamat.
Maraming salamat, Director Joyce, for the updates. So nakuha na po natin yung update sa ating public schools and private schools. Thank you very much. At ngayon naman po, bago po tayo magpatuloy sa ating talakayan dun sa ating open forum or actual press conference, makakasama po muna natin ang ating ina ng kagawaran para sa kanya din pong updates at kung may nais po siyang sabihin, may mensahe man. Magandang araw po, Secretary Lenore Magtoles Briones.
Press conference natin, hindi ako magsalita ng mahaba dahil napaka-comprehensive na at kumpleto yung reports na ginawa nila. Binigay ng ating mga regional directors at saka ni ASEC Malcolm at ni Director Joyce. Ang gusto ko lang emphasize para ma-correct natin once and for all. Una, hindi tayo talaga nagsara ng schools as in nag-close tayo ng schools, nag-lockdown dahil last October 5 nag-umpisa man tayo sa ating blended learning approach, that is last year, and then this year naman nag-umpisa tayo sa September 13. So patuloy actually ang pag-aaral ng ating mga bata using blended learning. Gusto ko lang i-emphasize kasi ang impression ng iba sa ibang bahagi ng mundo at saka ibang bahagi mismo ng Pilipinas, maski alam nila, naniniwala sila na talagang nagsara tayo ng academic activities natin. Ay hindi naman yan totoo. Totoo na hindi tayo nag-face-to-face pero patuloy yung ating blended learning at saka ibang mga paraan na ating na-develop sa ating learning continuity program. So that's very important dahil akala ng mundo talagang 2 taon na naka-lock ang ating academic iba yung physical closing of schools or physical unavailability of schools vis-a-vis continuation of our learning for the students. Ngayon, happy na tayo, very pleased, napaka-exciting. At saka I'm very happy na talagang na-proven yung pananaw ng DepEd na maingat tayo sa pag-implement nitong pilot na ito. At saka considering na out of 100 public schools, 97 ang natutuloy, 3 ang dinifer, but at the latest will also be started by November 22 itong 3 schools. So magandang practice ito para sa atin. Nakikita natin kung anong possible na mangyayari, no? So on that note, I believe that we can already answer the questions of the press on this issue, on the matter of face-to-face. At isa pang development, which is really a wonderful development, sumulat kami sa Presidente, nagsabi tayo sa DepEd na kung pwede ba na ang Department of Health at saka ang Department of Education ang bigyan ng authority to make the assessments kung how much and how far we are going to expand the coverage of the pilot implementation at nagbigay ng permiso ang Presidente. So we'll not be going back and forth to the President na halimbawa magdagdag tayo ng 5 school o 10 school, hingi tayo ng permiso, hindi. Nagbigay na siya ng authority sa atin, which is very, very important. So yun lang siguro ang idagdag ko at ready na tayong magsagot ng mga tanong ng press. Thank you.
Maraming salamat, Secretary. At yes, yan na nga po ang hudyat na maaari na nating simulan nating press conference. Paalala lamang po sa ating mga kaibigan sa press at media, kapag tinawag na po ang inyong pangalan at kayo na po ang magtatanong, please do not forget to turn on your cameras and of course, unmute yourselves. And then also po, questions not related to the face-to-face, the pilot implementation of face-to-face classes, we will be directing them to the respective bureaus or strands and we will get back to you with substantial responses. Ayan po, maraming salamat at maaari na po nating simulan. Una pong katanungan, manggagaling po ito sa Business Mirror kay Claudette Seriaco at akin na lang po itong babasahin. First question po, ano po ang ating assessment on the face-to-face classes implementation? Do we consider it as a success and why?
Sinabi na naman kanina sa PCOO press con na very successful kasi 100 pilot schools tapos 97 ang talagang full blast na tuluyan and 3 yung dinifer natin at the latest baka by November 22 hahabol yung 3 eskwelahan at saka sa actual na pag-implement ng pilot ay may nakikita tayo na ano pang dapat nating gagawin. So for me, all our planning and our calculations, lahat na preparation paid off. Last week, ang mga high officials natin, senior officials natin, lahat sila, they traveled all over the country o nagtokahan sila ng mga regions, ng mga schools, umakyat sila sa bundok, sumakay sila ng mga bangka, lahat-lahat para ma-inspect yung mga schools, and that was also a wonderful experience for them. So I believe the pilot is a success. If you have a 97% full implementation and 3 deferred, that's very, very high indeed for a pilot effort. And as I was saying, another indicator of the success of our efforts is the fact that the President is now allowing us, the Department of Health and the Department of Education, to expand using the same standards, kasi very specific na yung standards na ginamit natin, we'll also apply them, and of course we completely agree to further expand the coverage of our pilot, and eventually yung ating aspiration, yung ating hope na fully implemented na talaga ang face-to-face will finally be realized by next year, I believe. Yes.
Thank you for the response, Secretary. And the mere fact that we're able to do pilot implementation of face-to-face is such a great milestone in itself. Ayan po, to proceed, our next question, still coming from Claudette Seriaco of Business Mirror. This is the second question. Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergeres said that there is no need for plastic barriers in classrooms as long as there is adequate ventilation and minimal capacity is observed. So these, she said, are effective ways to prevent infections during face-to-face classes. Now, with that, are you going to order the removal of plastic barriers inside the classroom?
Ito, Director Nina, from the top of my head, removal or retention or whatever of the plastic barriers would really depend on the risk assessment of the school itself. There might be instances where it is needed, there might be instances where it might be superficial, although we tend to favor more precautionary measures at this time, especially since our children are affected. Maybe the other members of the DepEd family may want to answer this question, but that's how I look at it. As I said from the top of my head, na depende yan sa situation sa school itself. Kasi yung degree ng ventilation, etc., yung distancing might affect a decision whether to retain or to remove barriers. Yeah.
Thank you, Secretary. Yes, ASEC Malcolm Garma.
Bilang karagdagan na Director Nina, no, unang-una gusto nating ulitin, no, hindi naman talaga natin requirement, no, yung paglalagay ng plastic barriers sa ating mga paaralan, no, dito sa mga pilot schools natin. Karamihan po dito, gaya rin nung na iulat na ni RD Art, no, minsan ito ho ay kagustuhan din, no, ng community, ng mga magulang at ng mga local government unit. Alam nyo, Director Nina, at this point, hindi naman maganda na bigla nating pag-utos na tanggalin lahat ng mga plastic barrier. Kasi nakakadagdag po ito doon sa kumpiyansa ng mga magulang na masiguro na itong mga anak nila ay protektado, no, from COVID. At siguro magandang isama natin yung factor in, no, yung plastic barrier doon sa pilot study natin. Tignan natin kung yung plastic barrier ba ay hindrance para sa ventilation, yung bang plastic barrier ay makakaapekto ba sa pandinig at yung vision, no, ng mga bata insofar as their activities are concerned. And also we would like to see yung behavior ng mga bata, Director Nina, kasi importante talaga doon sa pilot study, makita natin muna yung behavior, and one day it will not be enough to really determine what is the motivation and behavior of our learners while they are inside the classroom. So kahit po sabihin natin minsan na merong distansya sila, that they have to maintain the distance, tignan din natin yung movement ng mga bata. And probably somehow, as the Secretary had mentioned, baka there are cases na makatulong yung barriers. So sa akin, hindi pa muna siguro natin, no? Kung meron ng mga nakalagay, hayaan muna natin. Pero doon sa mga wala, hindi na ho natin ini-encourage na ilagay ito. Thank you, Director Nina and Secretary.
Thank you, Secretary. Thank you, ASEC Malcolm. Sabi nga nila, it's just an additional precautionary measure. Ayan, thank you.
Dagdag
Yes,
na
Secretary.
observation. Kung you observe classes, especially where sa elementary level ng mga bata, makikita natin na they tend to move around. They tend to throw things at each other. And sometimes they pinch each other or inaano yung mga buhok ng nasa harap nila. Kasi that's part of the playfulness of children. So siguro makakatulong na may barrier na hindi sila, sabihin mo na mag-social distancing sila, hindi mo yan mag-guarantee na because you told them to distance themselves, they will distance themselves. So tingnan natin how they will be acting and reacting. And this is where the value of the pilot study comes in. Mga bata, restless yan, hindi naman yan nakaupo lang palagay, may tatayo, may iikot, may magkokopyahan, may magbabatuhan ng mga eroplanong papel or whatever. So let's observe if the barriers are helpful or not. Yun lang ang punto ko. Oo.
Ayan, thank you very much, Secretary. Susunod po na magtatanong, makakasama po natin live, tawagin po natin from GMA, Mariz Umali.
Hi po, good afternoon, Secretary and all the other officials of DepEd and to my colleagues as well. Secretary, you mentioned that the face-to-face pilot run is 100% success, and we saw that. Naniniwala po kami doon. Now, given the situation that it proves that the situation is workable, when do we see NCR following suit? Especially that we are already under alert level 2 and there are moves to even lower it to alert level 1.
Actually, we are already sa aming pag-iisip sa pagpaplano, ina-assume na namin na eventually we will be of course including NCR kasi we also want to see how the pilot will work in urban settings. Hindi lamang sa NCR kasi mas malaki pa ang Region 4A. Ang pinakamalaking concentration ng learners natin is in Region 4A followed by NCR. So gusto nating makita hindi lamang kung nagwo-work itong pilot natin in schools with small enrollments or maliit na record ng COVID-19 but also in urban areas, and this will be very valuable to us. So we're already thinking in those terms. Kaya sinasabihan na natin yung ating mga regional director na consider already the possibilities of expanding pilot, especially since the president already gave his consent. Ang sabi niya na kailangan sundin yung standards na ginamit natin, which helped us make the pilot a success. Pareho din ang requirements. So we're looking at that. Titingnan natin, and also importante kasi kanina nagsalita si Chairman Abalos na they will be speaking as one. Mahalaga sa amin, that's one of our major requirements talaga, terms of endearment natin, na papayag ang local governments, no, na magkaroon tayo ng pilots din sa NCR, not only NCR but also the heavily urban areas like 4A. At saka 4A is very challenging dahil mix talaga, yung mix ng tao is quite interesting and malaki talaga doon. So yun. We're already thinking in those terms, Maris.
Yes, Secretary. Sec, I understand that you already mentioned that it will be the same as the conditions in the pilot run for the public and private schools sa mga liblib po na lugar. But since you're thinking of urban setting, so ibig sabihin po talagang mas madaragdagan na rin po yung bilang ng mga papayagan na pumasok sa eskwelahan kasi syempre, mas marami po yung population talaga sa mga eskwelahan sa urban setting, especially NCR and 4A as you've mentioned, Secretary. And if you can also mention top of mind, if you can run us through the conditions that have to be met para mapayagan na ang face-to-face classes sa mga rehiyon pong ito.
Oo. Kasi tatlo kaming actors dito, no, na institutional actors. Una ang DepEd, then ang partner talagang major is the Department of Health, and pangatlo is the Department of Interior and Local Government. So from our perspective sa Department of Education, una, kailangan may agreement, may permiso from the local governments, agree sila. Pangalawa, this might be interesting kasi no other country, as far as I know, is doing it. We seek the parents' written consent. Kasi sa ibang bansa, pag mag-announce na si Minister of Education, this is it, then that's it. Sunod lahat. In our case, we say na we consult the parents. Pangatlo, yung halimbawa, yung mga schools, tama yung sabi mo, Maris, na dahil sa kadamihan ng mga learners, marami din mga schools. Pero we also want to make sure on the part of DepEd na itong facilities ng mga schools na ito are conducive to face-to-face. Na pwede yung, sabihin mo, malalaking klase, kaya ba yun ng social distancing which is a requirement? Tsaka yung supply ng tubig, that's very important. At saka yung closeness perhaps to health unit. Yung mga bagay na yan in case there are challenges. So mayroong obligasyon ang Department of Education, may obligasyon ang Department of Health kasi silang magbibigay ng kanilang risk assessment, and then also the local governments. Kanina sinabi ni Chairman Abalos that they will act as one and they will talk as one. So we are also awaiting their assessment dahil hindi kami gagalaw pag walang permiso sa kanila. Oo, at saka yung mga ano din, Maris, mga nagsiserve sa education sector like transportation. At saka isang ano namin during the pilot run, hindi namin inaalaw ang mga canteens kasi yung pagkain, we have to be sure of all these issues. So ganyan, it will be of course harder work for us, but it's also about getting in more learners exposed to face-to-face learning. Oo.
Secretary, very quick lang po. Do we
Sure.
see this happening January next year?
We have very high hopes. Depende din sa behavior ni COVID. Kaya nga, I quite agree with the call of Chairman Abalos kanina na lalo na with the onset of the Christmas season, we should not let our guard down. Kasi kung biglang may changes, nangyari na yan kasi last January pa tayo nakaschedule mag-open na tayo tapos dumating naman si UK variant o nag-spike. So yun, that will really influence also the decisions. Lalo na sa local governments, they're very, very careful and protective about their constituencies. Makita natin yan. So I think if we carefully follow protocols, the advice of our own officials, etc., the chances would always be much higher than now. We are hoping for next year, no, na talagang extensive expansion papasok sa mga regional areas, but we are also hoping that we will also behave, especially in terms of the health protocols.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Secretary.
Yeah. Good question.
Thank you po. Maraming salamat. Ingat po kayo.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marie Sumali ng GMA. Next po to ask the question, let's call on Jane Bautista from Inquirer.
Good afternoon po. So,
Hi.
some groups are calling for the weekly testing of participating teachers and students. And during an education forum din po last week, nabanggit na sa UAE, isa po sa mga best strategies nila yung testing para mas madaling ma-isolate. So, considering po na na-postpone yung sa Zambales, no, dahil nag-positive yung teachers, will DepEd consider implementing regular testing na po?
Ay talaga namang kasama yan eh. Kasama naman talaga eh. Hindi naman we always prefer na natitest. Kaya nga lumitaw na there were 3 out of nearly 1,000 teachers. 3 yung lumitaw na mayroong positive findings, pero pinarepeat ko kaagad. And this is the good thing about the pilot studies. Talagang kaya nga lumitaw yan eh, dahil tinest namin sila eh. Kung hindi namin tinest, hindi namin makikita kasi we know that most of our teachers, of course, are fully vaccinated. At saka the good thing about these teachers is that they were all asymptomatic. Kaya hindi na lumitaw lang talaga sa testing. At saka maganda ang nangyari kasi automatic within the day yesterday. I knew about it immediately and I gave instructions, i-repeat ninyo yan. And then nag-usap kaagad ang local government at saka ang Department of Health, konsultahan. At saka the decision was a result of discussions of these 3 sectors. Because we went through all, all these precautions precisely because we care about our children and our staff. So kasama talaga yun, Jane. Okay.
So, to clarify lang po, regular po yung testing ng teachers, pero yung sa mga bata, hindi pa po siya nire-recommend, no?
The experts are not recommending testing because it involves poking into your nostrils, and as I said, it might be traumatic for the children. It's even traumatic for the oldies. Very senior citizens really fast when they are subjected to those kinds of tests. So sa mga bata, we are risking accidents and so on, trauma and everything else. So ang ginagawa, as Garma has pointed this out, is binabantayan yung symptoms. Kung may mga symptoms yung mga bata. And yeah, on the matter of malls, for example, ang mga iba na ito, no? Yung kanina kasi na-discuss yung children going to shopping malls. Mahirap yun because shopping malls are closed areas, fully air-conditioned yan. They have thousands of people. And siguro, tama yung ano ni Chairman Abalos na to ask the parents to exercise more care and discretion in bringing infants, for example, to shopping malls. Ganon din sa aming mga bata sa schools. We know for a fact that children are more resistant to COVID-19, but they can be carriers also, and we also know that. So with all these things that we are aware of, talagang we are glad na the public understands why we are so, some say we are so slow, but we just want to be very sure that there is full protection. And the start of the pilot showed that very, very clearly. 97 out of 100 schools. At saka ngayon, the latest is that by November 22, makahabol na. At saka kailangan naman i-isolate yung mga at saka hindi na lang yung the usual regular test, kundi kasama na yung full range of tests that we also implement. So ayun. Thank you, Jane. Good question.
Next question po. May update po ba kung ano po yung napag-usapan tungkol sa pag-require ng face shield sa mga bata po?
So face shield, nagsalita na ang IATF na it is voluntary. Saka yung face shield, again, you have to think, wala namang, I don't know kung mayroong special face shields na kasize ng sa mga bata. And we have seen children might consider it a nuisance, nagmamas na sila tapos may face shield pa. Kaya voluntary yan. Although ako personally, I still wear face shields, no. Pero sa mga bata, mahirap. Kaya nga, what we do is try to protect them in other ways, to make sure that the teachers, everybody else is taking the precautions and not necessarily impose them on the children themselves. Kasi may mask na, may shield pa, at saka we have seen na hindi all the time proper yung paglagay ng face shield. Kung minsan nandito lang yon, and even adults do not place them properly, how much more the children. And it is mahirap, malikot ang mga bata. So it may not serve the purpose that we want as an 81-year-old like me. I behave when I use a face shield, but you cannot expect that of a playful child. So ganon.
Thank you po.
Thank you very much. That was Jane Bautista ng Inquirer. For the next question, well, actually, the next question was the same as what Ms. Jane Bautista asked. Ito po yung after what happened to Zambales, schools will DepEd now be requiring COVID-19 testing for teachers and even to students. That is coming from Ms. Ina Hernando, who is monitoring us live naman via DepEd Philippines Facebook page. So with that, we'll proceed with our next question. May we call on Ara Perez of ABS-CBN.
Hi po, good afternoon. Hello po, good afternoon.
Yeah, hi Ara.
Hi po, good afternoon. Question ko po, if some parts po nung pilot face-to-face classes kayo kahapon na satisfy in terms of abiding by health protocols and yung learning aspect, and then which parts yung tingin ninyo kailangan po ng rooms for improvement?
Great question. Kasi just a while ago, our regional directors reported on what the emerging challenges are and what the good things are. One of the challenge, of course, is which has always been a challenge since the pandemic is, of course, the accurate assessment of the experience itself. No, kasi true, we have contingency plans, we have laid down everything to the last detail, etc. Reduce the number of sample schools. But the actual implementation, of course, is different. No, so we are taking this into consideration. Kaya nga sabi kanina ni Yusek Rebsi na yung tinanong siya sa laging handa na we will assess the experience itself, and then in the process we might consider already the further expansion. Pero i-assess namin yung experience na ito. So this afternoon mag-meet na, we are continuously meeting actually. At saka yung mga officers natin, ako lang ata dito at saka si Yusek Yusek Nepo is in isolation. They're all out of central office kasi if you have 100, ma-divide up mo talaga sila 100 schools. So binabantayan nila what is actually happening because of course the reality would surface challenges and concerns. So inaano na namin yan. May initial report na halimbawa ang Region 10 na very specific identification of issues. Thank you, Ara, for that question.
Thank you po.
Assess muna namin bago kami mag-decide na mag-expand.
Okay po. Just one last po. With the start of pilot implementation for private schools next week, ano po yung preparations? Are there iba po ba yung preparations for public and private schools or same path lang naman po?
Same. Same lang. Kasi it's the same children, same conditions, and challenging yan because some leading private schools are located largely in Metro Manila or in Luzon compared to public schools which are really all over the country. So gusto nating makakuha ng spread na which should give us the also information that we need. But otherwise, the requirements are the same. Sige.
Thank you po.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ara Perez of ABS-CBN. For our next question, may we call on Ms. Faith Del Mundo of TV5 News.
Yes, hello. Good afternoon po. The question po, in the event po that there is actually an expansion of face-to-face classes, pero in case parents still do not want their kids to participate po in face-to-face classes, will there still be po an online or learning module set up? And if that is the case, magkakaroon po tayo ng two learning modes of learning po, no? So will there be enough teachers or for face-to-face and then blended learning style? And what is the DepEd's plan for regarding this? Thank you.
As I have already said, we are different from other countries. We seek the approval, the written consent, hindi lang yung oral, but written consent of parents for their children to participate. At saka secondly, yung sabi mo, will there be other modes like blended learning? Kasi ang blended learning at saka face-to-face, magkaano naman sila they're part and parcel of each other. Yung face-to-face is, as we see it now, is different from the face-to-face that you are used to, Faith, or what I am used to, where you have the teachers with us for 8 hours or 6 hours physically. Hindi. In most countries, part of the time is spent in face-to-face, but most of the time it's also blended. And this is what is happening in many of the leading countries. No, so adjustments can be made for those who are not into face-to-face. But if you ask the children, Faith, of course, children prefer face-to-face. They like to see other children. They like to talk to other children as well. And but we will not do it. We will not insist on their being in the face-to-face if the parents do not agree. Kasi importante yung consent ng parents in this matter.
Yes.
So mangyari yan. Pero pwede ma-integrate yan sa activity because ang face-to-face is only part of the blended approach. Hindi naman talagang full face-to-face, no? I still have to hear of a country na full face-to-face lang kasi it's always a combination. Even in, as I said, the leading countries now, which we have been observing very, very closely. Minsan half day or once a week or how many hours a day. Basta ang importante lang, the child is exposed to other children. The child is exposed to the teacher. Teacher meets the children. Yun ang yung very important aspect. And this is why also, if I may add, hindi ito kasama sa question mo, why is it that we are focusing on K-3, for example? Because this is our opportunity. Sabi ng mga lahat na experts na nakausap namin, ang pinaka importanteng age is the K-3. Kasi this is our chance and our opportunity, our challenge to help mold the morals, the characteristics, etc., to teach the children. Their brains are growing, their bodies are growing, and we have to prepare them for dealing with other children, with their teachers, with the elders, etc., etc. Kaya doon ang focus. Both physical as well as mental growth happens during these years. Kasi for a while we were criticized for that. Bakit daw yung mga younger children? But this is the recommendation of the pediatricians. Thank you.
Yes, opo. Yes, thank you. Pero Secretary, you mean po na talagang there will still be face-to-face and of course yung online learning, hindi pa rin po mawawala. Yes.
Hindi.
Yes, okay.
Face-to-face is not going to be 5 days, 6 days a week or 8 hours a day. Hindi, no. In other schools, once a week lang, kung minsan half day. Basta lang may sense of being part of the human race.
Yes.
ang mga bata. It's not like what we are used to. I keep on saying that do not expect na full-time face-to-face. And besides, as I said, there are still parents who are also have their own hesitancies, and we have to respect that.
Yes. And yes, Secretary, question po. So yung teachers po na nagfa-face-to-face, it's a different teacher naman po dun sa mga mag-online learning. So or they will do both?
Not necessarily. Oo, kasi there are subjects really which need face-to-face, and there are subjects also na kailangan lang ang mas useful ang blended. Because we also have to prepare the children, even as we prepare them for their socialization, first 3 years of their being in school. But we also have to prepare them for the world that they're going to be part of. And technology is moving very, very, very fast. Ako hindi ko na kayang humabol. No, but it does not mean I deprive all the children of that level of preparedness. Kasi we are moving into a digitalized world. So they have to recognize that as part of their existence. But we have to remind them that they're also humans.
Yes.
I keep on repeating how much I like the series of books of June, the UNE. Where nag-rebel the humans nag-rebel against the robots. Because it reached a point now when the robots started ruling over them. Nag-rebellion sila. And so they relied on their thinking, pati communications, lahat. And, well, anyway, I got very excited when I talk about June and the other films which look into the future.
Yes.
Kaya nga sabi ko sa isang sa isang candidate, how do they see the future? Beyond, of course, the election, but that is another issue. Wala yan na out of turn yan. Sige.
Yes, Apo. Secretary, you mentioned din po kasi, di ba po, meron pong ibang set of teachers for online learning and for face-to-face. So with that po, we can say po na we have enough teachers naman po. In case na mag-expand din po tayo for face-to-face, we have enough number of teachers po.
Actually, there are two responses to that. And then the government is supporting our need for more teachers. Actually, pumayag sila. And so ang challenge is to speed up the process of recruitment and employment. Secondly, it does not mean that we are discarding our existing teachers because they have a great deal of experience, especially in handling children. And so we are upgrading them so they can do both. They can be humans and at the same time know the use of technology, for example. So yung ating NAEAP, which is the National Educators Academy of the Philippines, we are already transforming NAEAP into an institution which will prepare not only our children but also our teachers themselves. No, and ito again, I keep on repeating this. Boring na talaga para sa mga DepEd family ko because I say it all the time. Na if I would, another favorite scientist of mine, who passed on already, sabi niya, wherever you have a brilliant student, you can be sure there is a brilliant teacher somewhere. And so you have to develop that wonderful teacher so that we can produce, we can encourage and mentor brilliant students or even those who are prepared to face the future because the future is very threatening at this time. So ayun.
Thank you so much po, Secretary.
Thank you. Thank you for your questions. Nag-trigger ka ng mga ko eh.
Thank you.
Favorite topics. Okay.
Thank you po. That's Faith Del Mundo of TV5 News. And Secretary, just before we proceed, we'd like to recognize again ASEC Malcolm Garma. He has additional responses with regards to the earlier questions on testing po.
Sure.
Yes, ASEC Malcolm.
Yeah, thank you, Director Nina. No, just on the testing, just to cite the Zambales case, no, on the testing, we would like to share this information, no, with our media partners. Na ito kasing mga schools natin sa Zambales, all of them are IP schools. And as such, the teachers are coming from the bayan, no, or doon sa mga sentro. Ngayon, part of the requirement really, bago sila umakyat sa community, they have to undergo antigen testing. And we asked, no, during our stay in Zambales, we asked the teachers who shouldered their antigen testing, and they said that it's the LGU. So this is where the shared responsibility framework really come into play, Director Nina, wherein talagang we see the support of the local government unit in protecting both our teachers, the learners, and the community. So they see to it that before, on a weekly basis, kasi yung mga teachers natin na umaakyat doon sa mga bundok to join the IP communities, sometimes they stay there for 1 week or sometimes they stay there for 2 weeks. So when they go down and then prior to going up again, they will undergo the testing. Kasi this is also to protect the community, no, from possible transmission, no, that will come from these teachers. So what we're saying is that this testing of our teachers is basically both initiatives of DepEd and the local government unit. Yun lang yung gusto ko idagdag, Director Nina, para dun sa kaalaman ng ating mga media partners on the case of Zambales. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ASEC Malcolm. To proceed to continue with our question and answer, we'd like to call on next Ms. Catherine Cruz of Manila Times.
Hi, good afternoon po. So for me naman po, yung question ko lang po is regarding po sana dun sa, meron po kasing statement kahapon regarding nga po dun sa presence ng isang armed personnel. And there's a statement na rin naman po coming from DepEd. So how are we ensuring the student safety po with face-to-face classes given na hindi nga po natin pinapayagan yung presence ng ating mga armed personnel. So how are we ensuring the safety of students coming in and out of the schools given na medyo mas bata nga po yung mga participants natin? Thank you po.
Well, if I may answer that issue was emerged 5 years ago when I assumed office, because there is this worldwide campaign, and the Philippines is part of it, DepEd is part of it, wherein we declared clearly and openly that schools are safe zones of peace. And so during that first year of my administration, we even put up streamers in the various schools to remind everyone, armed groups, whatever side they're coming from, that schools are not venues for whatever confrontations might be occurring, and we that has always been respected. So whenever we receive reports, and I personally receive reports, but very few lang naman siguro, less than 5 na there are feedback given to us that there might be possible of the policy, ignoring policy, then we call the attention because for example yung ibang groups hindi naman under sa DepEd yun eh. So we call the attention of the affected secretaries and they totally agree. Actually signatories sila sa aming agreement eh. So so far wala namang incidents because as tayo siguro as a people we don't want to drag children into our debates, diba? Even in families sasabihin natin, oy, the children are listening, o ganon, huwag iparinig sa mga bata, and so that has we have had incidents, and I always comply. I had an experience when I wanted to visit, for example, UP Iloilo, yung campus na out of town, and because I had a hand in the development as vice president of UP at that time, in the expansion and the development of that UP branch, and so I wanted to visit, to drop by. Then I was told, sorry, you have security unit, we will not let you in. So I went in without the security, and this has happened to me twice. So it's very naman talaga, it's an ongoing practice which is recognized by all sides. Pag may mga reports, then we call the attention of we redeclare our policy. Sumusunod naman because nobody can argue against schools as safe zones of peace. There's no possible argument against that. And sabi pa nga ng it's advisor ni President na when we were discussing this matter, sabi niya that's exactly why we are increasing the salaries, for example, of armed personnel, so that they can take care of themselves and not necessarily occupy schools or what. And that has not happened at all. Since my time, walang mga schools na inoccupy. Kasi if may mga distance yan, they are within how many meters, etc. And they're very sensitive to it naman. So it's not really a big deal or a big problem because all sides respect schools, whatever the ideology. Okay. Thank you.
So next naman po is regarding po sa mga private schools na magpa-participate. So we have 20 po right now. So in case po na meron po ulit dito sa mga private schools na mag-back out based on different circumstances po, yung 13 po ba na meron tayo, sila rin po yung gagamitin natin na pang-replace just in case may mag-back out po?
Kay Joyce yan, siya ang makasagot niyan because what we do kung may magbaback out, then we withdraw from a list. Again, with the agreement of the local government. Sila ang nakakaalam. Sige Joyce.
Opo ma'am. Tama po yun ma'am. Meron din kagaya sa proseso natin sa public schools, meron din po tayong nakaabang na mga schools sa private na pwede natin from the 33. So yung meron po tayong 3 doon na pwede na nga natin pong isama in the coming days or weeks. Oo. Meron tayong 3 na senior high sila and the other one is junior high also. So yes.
Mag-interrupt lang ako ng good news. Hi, thank you, Catherine. Mag-interrupt lang ako, Direct Nina.
Yes, go ahead,
message
Secretary.
on the Zambales issue. Sabi niya, good morning, negative ang antigen results ng teachers ng Banawen Elementary School and San Felipe. Negative naman ang RT-PCR ng teachers ng San Marcelino High School and Balewet Elementary School. Kaya yung 3 schools mag-resume ng opening bukas kasi cleared na yung mga teachers. At saka yung director who went to inspect the facilities, etc., cleared na rin siya kasi we want to make sure na she's also cleared. So na-test sila lahat. So bukas na daw mag-open na yung 3 schools. So that makes it total of 100 schools na talaga. So 100% na tayo and that's wonderful news.
Thank you very much, Secretary, for that great news. And we'll proceed po for the next question. This question is coming from Michelle Abad of Rappler. And I will be reading the question. The question, we could address this to our regional directors who have joined us for their updates, kani-kanina lamang. The question reads, the challenges RD Bayokot described, like the sustainability of providing safety gear like alcohol, soap, and mask, then the availability of water for hand washing. Are these challenges also shared by other RDs? If we still have with us our regional directors, we have RD Sal and
Yes.
RD Chetty. Yes. Go ahead, RD Sal.
It's okay. So again, thank you. No, so far in Region 7, similar to what RD Art mentioned, no, for the whole period of the limited pilot face-to-face, we do have enough on these essentials or safety gear. But our challenge will be if there will be an extension or expansion of other schools. That is the challenge now. But as of now, for the whole period of the pilot limited face-to-face for the schools joining the pilot limited face-to-face, so far we have enough because of the cooperation and collaboration among all the stakeholders in the schools where the schools are located. Thank you.
What
Yes, Ma'am,
really what we did was that we itong mga pilot schools dinagdagan sila ng additional funding, di ba? Oo, for their special needs, no? So that's one. And secondly, everybody wants to join in the effort dahil sabi namin nga shared responsibility. So mga PTA, NGO leaders, either personally or on their own, nagko-contribute din sila. Pero ang calculation kasi natin dito, the pilot will take 2 months, di ba? O 2 months. And if there will be any extensions, then we will do everything to accommodate the additional expenses in our own budgets kasi may budget naman tayo sa Department of Education. So we'll be making adjustments, and this is where also the local governments are very supportive talaga. Kaya we need their consent kasi they really fund many of our needs as well as mga PTA, private business. So yun ang challenge na nakikita natin, a challenge which is not insurmountable and which should not be enough to make us stop the pilot effort. Oo. Yun ang nakikita ko. We will endeavor to accommodate all the new needs from our budget, as well as with the cooperation of all the interested. Siyempre, parents are also pitching in, mga PTA, because their children are inside, are in the school. So gustong-gusto na ilang part sila at the business sector, and of course, national figures and so on. Only recently, si Lauren Legarda personally and privately donated also vaccines for the use of DepEd. So maraming nagka-come forward to help us out because they're quite enthusiastic about the resumption of limited face-to-face. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary. So there may be challenges, but we're continuously seeking ways and doing mga contingency plans. ASEC Malcolm Garma, would you have additional responses to this question po?
Yes, Director Nina. In fact, it will not be a challenge only for Region 10 or for Region 7 for that matter. Doon sa ating institutionalization, itong ating face-to-face, kasama na ito talaga, no, yung expansion ng ating resource base, no. And as an interim measure, we have augmented all the schools joining the pilot with 100,000 pesos, no. And then if ma-expand pa ito, USEC Ann Sibilia has committed, no, the Office of the Undersecretary for Finance has committed the additional fund, no, for the expansion program. So ang tinitingnan na lang natin, Director Nina, basically yung ilan, no, yung madadagdag nating school for the pilot expansion of the pilot program. But if ever we will be implementing, no, yung expansion phase by next year, early next year, institutionalize na rin itong mga requirements na ito, itong mga expenditures na ito doon sa ating MOE. So remember that prior to the COVID, hindi talaga kasama itong mga ito. Wala tayong ganitong mga items, no, that are allowed to be used, no, with the use of our MOE. So with our overall formulation of our policy, no, for the face-to-face, kasama talaga dyan yung additional school expenditures, no, that will be spent for ensuring that the protocols are met or are observed, no, with the use of these additional materials, no, in the schools. So yan yung ating overall direction, Director Nina, with regards to that question. Thank you.
Thank you.
To summarize, kasi the question is, pareho ba ang situation in the other regions? That's number one. Secondly, how are we providing for these deficiencies? Now, we have provided for the financial requirements for the pilot, now that this is 2 months. And if you are expanding it, we are already committed to also generating more support for the expansion and taking very seriously the MOE needs and so on and so forth. Kasi ang pilot is 2 months, so that is funded. But if we expand, of course, we will still fund. And at the rate that the pilot has been successful, sabi ko ngayon 100% na because bukas magbubukas na yung 3 schools kasi they underwent very extensive testing already, and I believe pumayag na ang local government at saka ang Department of Health. So 100% na ang coverage, and we are providing for them. Pag mag-expand tayo, we are obligated and we are duty bound to cover these needs as well. And nag-statement na si USEC Ann, and hopefully our budget is going to be reviewed by the Senate. We also seek their support for additional needs that we might be having. And we have to remember that there are 3 agencies here. DepEd as the lead agency, then you have the Department of Health. So magtutulungan kami talaga dyan insofar as health services are concerned. And third, of course, is the ILG, where the local governments are always caring and watching over the way they sound and the way they talk. Of course, it's happening right in their backyard, this event. So they would not want any untoward incident to happen. And also, local governments have more resources right now. As you know, in terms of revenues, the share of the revenue sharing, etc., mas malaki talaga ang resources nila than even national government. So I believe they're ready kasi kanilang territory yan eh. And they're very protective. I think all of us are aware of that, of their constituencies and their people, especially at this time. Di ba, Art? Pinag-interesa nila talaga ang this exercise is of interest to them. Oo. Ayun.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Oo. Ay,
Director
nandito si
Nina.
Chetty, Region 4A. Sinahit kita na sabi ko na we are all very concerned about NCR. Ang sabi ko 4A is bigger.
Yes, ma'am, that's right. And very very peculiar kasi ang landscape in Calabarzon because lahat ng mga typologies ng schools lahat nasa Calabarzon. So urban, rural, far-flung, last mile school, mountain schools, IP schools, lahat nasa Calabarzon. So very very diverse yung typology ng schools in Calabarzon. So it's very challenging. And then the challenges that are of course surmountable naman lahat yan because of the shared responsibility framework that we are working on. So it's very challenging on a case-to-case basis because of the vast diversity of typologies of schools.
Yes, and there's also a vast diversity of people, of the population.
Yes,
which can
ma'am.
match or even exceed that of NCR. Because Calabarzon is largely a manufacturing area and it draws workers, suppliers, contractors, professionals to the region. Kaya we are very interested in what will happen in Region 4A with our results of the pilot. Kasi malaki talaga, the largest, and I keep on saying that especially in terms of contribution to the economy. Kasi manufacturing industry, commerce, etc. Sa NCR naman, of course, the financial centers are in NCR. And schools, pero ang reach, ang variety ng ng 4A is quite one can say it is daunting, but of course, and challenging, but of course not really beyond the positive response. So ayun. Thank you.
Thank you. RD Art, would you have additional inputs?
Yes, Director Nina, regarding the question about that. While we single it out as one of the challenges in terms of sustainability, we also have ready interventions in that. But the importance of trying to overemphasize it is for us also to convey the message that this is everybody's responsibility, so that in the support generation, when it is very clear that that's one area that we have to look upon, then people will come in and would know where they should get in. No? As a matter of fact, the ready interventions I'm saying is the issuance of DepEd in terms of the MOOE utilization is encompassing in terms of what are to be prioritized. No? It's not like the past rules that it would not accommodate some of the allowables or the disallowables. But this time, it's very relevant, the guidelines on the use of MOE. Plus, of course, as we continue to engage the LGU on the use of Special Education Fund or SEF, we ensure that significant expenditures are also prioritize in the use of SEF, because we have to spend the SEF according to relevance and urgency. And so those priority areas that are not really in the tawag natin between life and death, then we can actually defer those. So again, there are ready interventions, but pushing it as also an issue is a way of communicating to also generate support from the others, because we believe, and everybody believes, that education is everybody's business. Thank you, Director Nina.
Thank you, RDR. Yes, indeed, shared responsibility. Maraming salamat po. And to proceed, our next question will be coming from Malaya Business Insight, Noel Talakay. Noel Talakay of Malaya Vistayan.
Secretary, nakausap ko po yung Kokopeya, sabi po nila, ano daw po yung parang yung gusto daw nila, yung 20 schools na sasali, humihingi rin daw po ng tulong kasi hindi daw po sila, hindi naman daw po sila kumikita or sarado din naman po sila. So kung magbibigay po ng tulong yung DepEd, anong klase pong tulong? Pareho po ba ito nung sa tulong din na nasa public schools? Yun lang po.
Medyo challenging yung question na yan kasi yung paggamit ng public funds, of course, you use it for public programs, etc. So kailangan i-konsulta natin yan yung kanilang but I understand perfectly na for them to participate, for example, in the pilot face-to-face, will also need they will also need additional support. But whether it will be coming from DepEd or from alumni, there are private schools with very, very active alumni members, or yung communities where they are in, nagko-contribute to help the schools out. And then kung sa high school naman, mayroon naman tayong system wherein we give them assistance for yung sa high school, sa senior high school at saka sa junior high school. So we already have those arrangements and we understand their situation. Although we have to be very tingnan natin how that will be possible for DepEd to give directly, for example, assistance the way we are doing to the public schools. Mayroon yan. We have to clarify that, of course, with the with DBM and the appropriate but the private schools are very good, perhaps out of their own experiences in generating support from alumni, from the parents, and even from also from government institutions, which there are government institutions which are allowed to give assistance to private institutions as well. So dapat explore yan lahat. But the question that's bringing up is a very relevant one. And it is well taken, and perhaps we should look into that issue further. Itong bagay na ito. Pero there are restrictions on DepEd as we all know on how we use our funds. Pero dapat pag-usapan.
Salamat po, Secretary. Yun lang po.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Noel Talakay, maraming salamat. Next question. For our next question, I will be reading. This is a question from CNN AC Nichols. The question is, yung teachers po na nag-negative sa confirmatory test, are they still undergoing quarantine and will they be retested after the quarantine to be sure? I think this is in relation po doon sa earlier questions with the Zambales schools. But Secretary, would you like to add, since you've given us an update on this?
My decision na, because these teachers are all fully vaccinated. Pagkatapos, rinipit yung kanilang yung tests nila. At saka yung repeat test showed negative. And we know that this can happen. No? Lalo na yung mas detailed na test, yung ano ba yun? What do they call it? PCR test na mas kasama na yung throat, everything. And this was, the teachers were subjected to it. And the decision, I'm sure the decision was reached together with the Department of Health that pwede na sila bukas na mag-umpisa. Tapos asymptomatic sila. They're asymptomatic. And the director who also who could have possibly exposed them dahil nagbisita siya ng isang school is also negative. So yun ang decision na bukas they can already start with in the 3 schools themselves kasi clear na sila all the way by the 3 institutions. So yun.
Thank you, Secretary. All right, and for the next question naman, this is a question from UNTV, Janice Ingente. And this is a follow-up question regarding the expansion. We've tackled a bit about this earlier. Ito po yung question. Hindi na po ba makakahabol this year ang mga schools na nais humabol na makasali sa pilot phase like NCR? Kung hindi na makakahabol within this year, kailan po inaasahan yung sinasabi po nating karagdagang pilot schools from alert level 2 areas?
Ang isang major factor dyan, of course, is the risk assessment. Right now, quite favorable ang risk assessment for NCR. And we hope that will not change and that will even go down further. That is the hope of everyone, depending also on how we time populace now within NCR are either contributing or reducing the risk, no? So yun ang isang factor dyan which we have to consider very, very carefully. Now, they will have whatever, yung mga nag-a-apply ng mga schools, yung mga rin-recommend ng mga schools, halimbawa in NCR. And as I said, I'm interested in 4A as well. Because if you want to get a picture of how urban schools, how face-to-face is working in urban schools, in conditions of huge populations, then it's NCR and Region 4A. So tingnan din natin kung what is the situation in 4A at saka magkatabi yun eh. Oo. So yun ang interest natin. Ang question mo, makakahabol pa ba? Nasa
within
ano yan?
this year po.
Within this year, tingnan natin kung anong risk assessment. Right now, it is 2 ba? Ang alert level 2 ng NCR. Oo. Chiti, ano ba ang assessment sa 4A? Baka mas mataas ang 4A. Ano ang risk assessment for 4A?
We still have areas that are in alert level 3, ma'am. Yung mga dating MECQ are in alert level 3 after the change in the classification. But
So,
definitely, yung aming mga pilot schools are in alert level 2 areas.
Oo, alert level 2. So mangyari sa inyo might be granular.
Yeah, it could be, ma'am. It could be granular.
On a kiss-to-kiss basis. Kumbaga sa aming ano. Pero makakahabol ba? Depende sa next round of assessment ng Department of Health. At saka kung how fast the schools also can comply or submit the requirements and the expectations of both the Department of Health and the Department of Education. Kasi ibang tinitingnan ng health, iba namang tinitingnan namin. Oo. So, but we are hoping na as fast as possible, masama talaga ang urban regions to get a complete picture of how face-to-face will be working. Oo.
Maraming salamat, Secretary. And we're down to our last question for this press conference. For the last question, still coming from UNTV, we can also ask Director Joyce to provide us additional information on this. The question po, Secretary, is sa private schools, since next week na mag-start, may number ba tayo of students and school personnels na lalahok sa ating face-to-face? And gaano po kahanda ang mga schools and our students?
Thank you, ma'am.
Sige, Joyce.
Opo. Thank you. At the moment, we do not have data on the number of students and the teachers that will participate in these 20 schools, but we have already asked the supervisors, the quad chiefs, the quality assurance division chiefs, to gather this data in time for the opening next week. So by next week po, meron na po, or even before that, meron na po tayong datos kasi 20 schools lang naman po ito. Gaano sila kahanda? I believe they are also very ready to offer face-to-face classes. In fact, some of them, although these are pictures that were sent to our office, but the regional offices and the division offices have conducted an ocular inspection about the readiness of these schools. Yun po, ma'am.
Okay. Oo. Kasi yung mga napili past the standards that DepEd has set up, and I believe also they will have to pass the risk assessment of the Department of Health. Yun lang, and saka the consent, of course, of the local governments.
Po, ma'am. Oo. Kompleto po lahat po yun.
Oo.
Thank you very much, Director Joyce and Secretary. And just before we end our program, before we end this press conference, Secretary, let me call you for a closing message.
I have talked since 11 o'clock. So I have said more than enough. I will just repeat what I said a while ago. One is that we did not really close our schools for 2 years, which is being circulated internationally and even locally. We did not close. Last October 5, we opened our schools with blended learning. September 13 this year. So for 2 years, for 2 school years, we have continued the learning process. This time, we are already bringing in the feature of face-to-face classes. So, and we're very, very happy and very pleased and excited that things have worked out so well. Naka 100% tayo, and we are looking forward to the expansion of the program. And the President has given us both Department of Health and the Department of Education the discretion to and the authority to continue the possibility of expanding the pilot further. Ang sabi lang, yung standards na ina-apply natin for the pilot study should also be applied, which we have no problem with because we'll be doing the same thing. So these are the wonderful things that are happening in education. And finally, we are all talking face-to-face, F2F, F2F pa yung sa ating mga social language. Let us not expect an 8-hour face-to-face with the teachers because I'm not aware of any country having face-to-face on a full-time basis. And even in so-called leading countries, and the programs for face-to-face are adjusted according to the situation of the schools themselves. Like I cited Brunei Darussalam, they started in face-to-face and then they deferred it also when their numbers warranted it. I understand Bangkok, November pa sila And this month, they're starting also face-to-face. So halos pareho lang natin para halos classmate natin sila. And other countries which have started already face-to-face, limited 1 day, 1/2 day. The objective here really is to give the teachers and the children the opportunity to mingle and to learn and to develop the skills that are necessary to survive in a world which is occupied by humans and threatened also by humans themselves. So that's it. So yun lang ang masasabi ko. Kasi baka magko-complain ng iba, bakit hindi daily? Ay kami, nung bata pa ako, ganito, yung teacher namin, nandyan palagi. It's not going to be like that. And it is not like that in other countries. At saka, I joined the appeal of the local governments that we should not let our guard down, because the minute our numbers change, the minute a new variant comes in, then we'll have to reconsider na naman face-to-face, which again also other countries are doing. So ganun lang, gusto kong i-correct ang notion na 2 taon tayo na nag-lock ng wala tayong academic activity. That's not true. Nagpadayo naman tayo for 2 years, and now we are finally, after all the care, all the study, all the strategizing, nag-ano na tayo ngayon ito sa pilot face-to-face. So we'd like to thank the President for giving us the full confidence. Nakita na niya kasi pinayagan niya tayo na ang mag-decide, and we have shown that we have that capacity for taking care of even the smallest details. And also DepEd has been pushed to the limits. 2 years ito na walang patid na meeting at saka pokpok, and the past month has been very tiring for everybody in DepEd, kasi yung nagpe-prepare ng mga schools, and at the same time yung mga officials who are going out with the checklist and everything to make sure na all is in readiness, and to identify possible problems. And even as we have implemented it yesterday lang, 1 day pa lang, nagsasurface na tayo ng mga challenges. This is not to say that these challenges should push us to stop. These challenges should challenge us to, of course, to find solutions and responses, and we are also doing that. So salamat sa DepEd and our perennial partner, the Department of Health. We are the favorite targets and the favorite objects of attention and hopefully affection from the public, no? And also, of course, the DILG for the full support, and the local governments who are really very concerned about this program, and and the public and the media, and I hope that media will share the good news together, of course, with the challenges. But this is good news, and let us savor it, and let us continue with it, and let us expand the coverage and the reach of the good news of education for our learners. Thank you.
Maraming salamat, Secretary Briones, and marami ding salamat and congratulations to all our DepEd officials, lahat po ng kasamahan, lahat po ng personnel ng DepEd na patuloy pa rin pong nagpapakita ng kanilang hard work and dedication. Ayan, thank you. At maraming salamat din po sa lahat ng mga opisyal na nakasama natin sa araw na ito para sa ating press conference. Thank you as well sa lahat po ng ating mga media partners at sa lahat po ng mga kasamahan natin at kaibigan sa media at press na nakilahok sa ating talakayan. Pinatunayan nga po ng sambayan ng Pilipino na sa panahon po ng COVID-19 pandemic ay buong-buo pa rin po ang ating pagkakaisa at bayanihan upang maiangat ang edukasyon ng ating bansa. Sana po ito'y patuloy pa rin nating ipasakatuparan, lalo na't nagbukas na pong muli physically, pumapasok na ang iilan sa ating mga students sa mga piling paaralan for our limited pilot implementation of face-to-face classes. Ayan, dito nga po nagwawakas ang ating press conference. Maraming salamat sa ating mga kasamahan sa media na nakibahagi at sa lahat po ng nag-broadcast sa atin ng live sa kanilang mga channels. Tulad po yan ng CLTV 36, DWRB 103.9. Andyan din po ang Romblon Cable, Kabangkalan Community Antenna TV, Siargao TV, The Post at Rappler. Marami pong salamat sa inyong pagsama sa amin. Ako po si Nina Bianca Sanglay mula dito sa Office of the Secretary. Sa ngalan po ng tuloy-tuloy na paghubog sa mga kabataan, naway tayo pa rin ay magkaisa upang mas mapalakas ang aksyon at solusyon para sa edukasyon. Para po ito sa bata at para sa bayan. Ito ang EduAKSYON, aksyon at solusyon para sa edukasyon, the DepEd Virtual Press Conference.
Salamat.